All right, folks, welcome back into the lounge. I am Jake ELLENBOGEN, your host, and joining me is my co-host on another show, Downtown Rams. You probably know her, Alexis Kraft. She is an actress, comedian, writer, and NFL podcaster, of course, with me. Alexis, we are really close friends. I've gotten to know you since early 2019, and there's so much more to you than just football or the football girl or the girl that's funny on social media. A lot more. So we're going to tackle all of that. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to hit the like button and follow Alexis on all her social media platforms. They'll be linked below, but I do know at the Alexis Kraft on Twitter, at Alexis Kraft on Instagram, and there's a bevy of other places you can find her. She also has her own YouTube channel, Alexis Kraft. So we will get into all that. But first off, Alexis, how the hell are you? How are things? I don't like the winter. I'm sure you don't like it as well. It's cold. You staying warm? I see the beanie there, you know?
Yeah, I just was outside in the snow. I just drove home from the second city and it was snowing and I was all bundled up and I was nervous that I was going to be late, but I wasn't. I made it just in time, thankfully. But yeah, it's freezing and I keep finding myself in situations, when you're in Chicago, you got to walk around a lot when you're in the city. So, you kind of just have to brace for it and deal with it. But I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to be here. It's a different, the tables have kind of turned. You and I normally do a show where we interview people together, and now you're interviewing me, which feels kind of surreal.
It's
But
true.
it's cool.
This is long overdue. This has been a passion project of mine that I've wanted to do since before I even met you. And I was just having some fun going back, and maybe not even fun. It was kind of embarrassing. I mean, we can all. You've showed me some things in the past where it's like you try something artistically or creatively or something. You put yourself out there, and you look back on, and you're like, oh, why did I do that? And it's like I was looking at my emails that I sent to all these publicists and what have you back in like 2017, and I was just so embarrassed because I'm like, there's just no way, shape, or of form that like a John Cena or somebody of that caliber was going to come on to my show that didn't exist. So it's,
You got to shoot your
yeah.
shot.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm doing it now, and we've had a lot more success than I did in 2017. I'll tell you that much. Now, 10 episodes in, and I got you, and I'm excited because I've known what you've been doing forever. I've been a big supporter of what you do. And I feel like you finally get a chance here to kind of show everyone what you do. Because you've always kind of hinted at it on our show and, on social media, but I don't think people realize the grind that you're putting yourself through right now to make it in this industry. I'm not talking about football, NFL, even I'm not talking about Twitter. I'm not talking about social media. Whole different animal. We will get into that. Let's start off with your early life. Okay, before I even knew you. Take me through that childhood. What was it like? And did you know then you would have interests in improv, acting, and even sports media at any point during that childhood?
Yes, actually, from a very early age. And before I get into this, every time we do our show, I have to remind people that my camera or like is on my lap. So if I'm looking down, it's because that's how I'm seeing Jake's image is on my laptop. So I
She's
don't
not
want
playing
people to think
Tropico or whatever.
I'm not just like on my computer or texting or something. This is my camera. This is my monitor. But yes, no. When I was really young, I kind of clocked that I wanted to do something that had to do with performance and storytelling. I was very into movies as a small child, and just as soon as I realized like that could be what you do when you grow up, right? Everybody kind of has this thing that they want to do when they grow up. And when I learned kind of what being an actor was, I was like, you get to play pretend and get paid for it. And like that gets to be your job. Like that's what I want to do. And I was really into, you know, just movies that kind of involved a lot of like just fun, silly characters. And I would like emulate that around my house. You know, I would like force my little sister to be like characters with me, and I would make up stories, and I would make my parents like watch these little plays that we made. At school at recess, I was always like gathering the troops, and I was like, let's all, during this 20-30 minute recess time, let's all be characters. And we would put on these like elaborate skits for like 20 minutes at recess. And yeah, that was like always my something I really loved from a young age. And yeah, from the time I was 5 years old, I was like, I want to be an actress, or I want to be a performer, or I want to be a singer. I couldn't really sing that well, but I didn't know that at that age. I just really loved performing, and I really just really liked making people laugh. That was kind of the biggest thing. It was kind of like, am I funny? Like, will people laugh at this? And if they did, that was like the best feeling in the world to me. So yeah, definitely from a very young age, I clocked that one of my biggest passions was acting and storytelling for sure.
I like that. And then so you went to school in St. Louis. That's where you're from, and you have a lot of affinity for that area, and you support players in the NFL and the NBA, and it's cool. Like, I always know who's from St. Louis because you tell me. Whether
Yeah.
that's JMO or Kyron or Jason Tatum. You always seem to know like right away. Oh yeah, they're from St. Louis. Like I have to
Stick
even think.
together.
I
Yeah.
just found out there was somebody from my area in the Pickett, Jalen Pickett, I think it is from. He's on the Nuggets. I just found
Nice.
out yesterday or 2 days ago. So yeah, wild stuff. And you're always on
Yeah.
top of it. So you've been a big advocate for your hometown community and the people who've gone on to succeed from there. What was your college experience like at Missouri Baptist?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I guess particularly my junior, senior year, I wasn't entirely sure where I wanted to go to school, or what I wanted to go to school for. I knew that I wanted to go to college, and I started looking at different places. And my dream was kind of to do the NYU thing. Originally, when I was like a junior or senior, I kind of started looking into, where's the best place to go if, I want to do an acting program, or I want to get involved in the comedy scene. And, NYU was kind of like the biggest, I think, thing that I kept running into, and all the people I really had admired in their careers had gone to NYU. But I also was a very anxious teenager. I had very, very bad anxiety. And the kind of idea of going to New York was something that I really, really loved, but was also terrified by. And at the same time, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay to go to an NYU. I played soccer, and I had, some scholarship offers, and NYU is a NCAA Division III school, so they don't give athletic scholarships. So it's kind of hard if you're not a brainiac or have some other type of scholarship to get into NYU. So I kind of figured out pretty quickly that probably was not going to be a thing for me, unfortunately, at least right away. So I ended up getting a really good offer from Missouri Baptist in St. Louis, and it was kind of the perfect thing for me at the time because, as I mentioned earlier, I just had really, really bad anxiety, and I hadn't really clocked what it was yet, and it had gotten pretty debilitating. So it was really good for me to have an opportunity to go to school very close to home and in an area I was super familiar with, and it was a very good scholarship offer. That definitely helps, when you're paying for your college. So yeah, I went to Missouri Baptist and played soccer there. My body is still recovering from that. And it was great. It was a really good time. I don't know if that answers your question. Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, I asked you like how it was and like your experience there. So I
Oh
mean, you kind
yeah.
of gave me your experience, but
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I think a lot of people are like, did you major in theater? I did not major in theater.
mm,
Um, in college. Some advice that I had heard way back was for actors was to not major in acting, major in something else. So you can learn, because you're going to kind of learn the acting stuff. Like you could learn it in school, but you're going to kind of pick up on it elsewhere. You can take classes elsewhere, give yourself more tools in your arsenal. So like maybe major in like film production or major in, something else. So I actually majored in history, which is not drama. But a lot of people do ask me that. They're like, "Did you get your degree in drama?" When they hear, what I do, I was like, "I did not."
Well, there you go. I
Yeah.
I think kind of during that time, I mean, I'm sure you were thinking about it, but
Mm.
were you going through your head when you're in college, like, I want to go to improv school at some point, really break in that industry, or is that something that maybe just kind of came to you a little bit after the fact?
So, well, as I mentioned earlier, very anxiety ridden teenager. Very that I had about a decade between high school, really high school through college, that I really really struggled with that. And I definitely went back and forth on kind of having this dream of I really wanted to go to NYU. I really wanted to study through Upright Citizens Brigade, which is like kind of a renowned improv and sketch comedy institution in New York City and Los Angeles, but originally it was in New York City. It was founded by a ton of awesome people, including Amy Poehler, who a lot of people are familiar with. I really love her very openly, as many people know. So I really wanted to study through Upright Citizens Brigade, particularly in New York, because so many of my heroes, including Aubrey Plaza, had gone through Upright Citizens Brigade. So that was always my when I had moments where I felt a little bit more confident and I was kind of having a more successful era of my mental health journey, I was like, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm going to get there. I'm going to go through Upright Citizens Brigade, go to New York City. But then the times where it was harder, I really genuinely had a period where I kind of gave up on it. I gave up on that entire dream of mine because I just didn't think, it was possible for me. I was like, I'm just not built for this. I clearly have like bigger problems going on. So yeah, there was a period of time where I entirely kind of jumped ship off of what I had always wanted to do, kind of for a more safer, route. But yeah, I always went back and forth about that, and I always, wanted to get involved in improv because I'd done a little bit of improv before, like in school, and I really enjoyed it. And like I said, all my heroes basically went through improv and sketch comedy, so I was pretty determined that if I ever kind of like got, you know, in a place where I felt like I could do that, that was the route that I wanted to pursue.
I like that. I like that a lot. There's been a lot of, I mean, a lot of people from UCB. Um, Nick Kroll is definitely one of them that comes to mind for me. Aziz Ansari, Rob Riggle, obviously Aubrey Plaza and Amy Poehler. But yeah, there's a lot of people there now. You know, I guess kind of going into that, I mean, you mentioned Aubrey, and obviously I know, and I think everybody, that's the one thing. You don't wear a lot on your sleeve. You just don't. You do hide a lot. But one thing you you wear on your sleeve is that you're a huge Aubrey Plaza fan.
Yeah.
So obviously I know she'll be part of this, but who are some people you drew inspiration from that led you to choosing this path?
Well, I so if I go way back to when I was a child and kind of in high school, I've always been a really big fan of Saturday Night Live. And like the era of Saturday Night Live where I really started to kind of, I was old enough to really watch it and get it and enjoy it, and be a fan of it was like that Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Rachel Dratch, Will Ferrell era. And then that kind of bled into like Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph, right? And like all of these really, really funny people, who, Seth Meyers was in there at one point, Bill Hader, right? Like all of these people that were such titans on this show for so long. I just was like, these people are just so funny and they have got it. And like they get to do this for a living. And they, so then you watch them on Saturday Night Live and then I would go watch the movies they were in. Like I remember when Baby Mama came out with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. And that was like such a massive movie for like me and my sister, and all my friends. We really loved that. So those are some people who I'd really say the SNL cast of like the 2000s, early 2000s, mid 2000s era really, were huge inspirations of mine. But like Aubrey Plaza particularly, I think the reason that I have such a I admire her so much and I feel so connected to her is when I was towards the later years in college, I came across Parks and Recreation as a TV show.
You got me into
And
that.
I did get you into that. It's one of my favorite shows, probably my most favorite TV show. And I felt a connection to the character April Ludgate for a lot of reasons, just a personality, thing. But also, I just thought that Aubrey did such a good job, with that character. And I kind of looked into her and, she had gone to UCB and she had done the improv route. And that was kind of when I had connected the dots. I think it was like a light bulb moment for me when I watched that show. And I was like, how could I be in a show like that? Like that is like the most fun job in the world. And you have all of these characters who are incredible. And then you would have like, day players or like, bit actors, whatever you want to call them. And so I really kind of locked down in that moment, what that meant. And I was just so blown away by her. And every project she's in, I love, but I had kind of this like light bulb moment where I was like, I want to do it how she did it. Like she is exactly everything that, I love, in an actress and a comedian. And she is so cool. And like, she is my hero. So, she'd gone through Upright Citizens Brigade, as I said. So that was kind of, a big moment for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, take me through that whole journey. I mean, you start. I remember you telling me you were going to do it, and I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of trying to push you in that direction, but I didn't feel like you needed pushing. I think you really wanted to do this. If I recall, it was right around the lockdowns and everything, and it was the
Mm-hmm.
remote classes at UCB. What was that like to kind of get your foot in the door for the first time, really in that industry?
So so COVID happened, obviously started in March 2020 and it was kind of like this like not a perfect storm obviously with the pandemic, but like in my personal life, so many things kind of happened at one time where like I got laid off because of COVID, like half my company, and then I
Stopped us
went
from
through
moving to LA.
yeah, well that happened and then I went through a breakup and then, summer happened and, some of us had a plan to move to LA, but like COVID was still going on. It was still the heat of COVID. And then I just kind of like, I think I was forced to take stock of like, what do I really want? Oh, and I graduated from grad school in August of 2020. So
So
August of
many different things
2020,
going on.
there's so much going on. Like literally, it was August of 2020. I had just gone through a breakup. I had just graduated from grad school, like the same weeks apart. And also during this time, my grandfather, who lived in Chicago, had broken his leg pretty badly. And he had, his house up there. And I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'll go watch your dog for you and I'll house sit for you. And so I was up in Chicago for months, like trying to find a job because I had just graduated, but it was a pandemic. So nobody was hiring. And then also battling kind of with this like thing where I was like, this is like, what am I doing with my life? Right. I was like 24 and you and I had a lot of conversations. I remember during this time during the lockdown. And I kind of was just like, you know what? Like, I don't have like anything I have to do. What do I want to do? And I I've always wanted to, do, improv like as a career and do more acting stuff. And so it was during then that because of the pandemic, I had the opportunity to sign up for Upright Citizens Brigade program remotely, right? Like online classes because their theaters had shut down. And so what that did is it allowed people all over the country, really all over the world to take classes through this amazing program. So I ended up signing up for that in the fall of 2020. I think I started classes in early 2021. Yeah, I think it was early 2021. But that's how I got into the door, which is a very unconventional kind of thing. But the pandemic, was obviously horrible and awful. But the one silver lining for me personally is I got the opportunity to take classes through UCB, and so I started that, and that was really validating for me in a lot of ways, and a really really cool experience.
Yeah, and I remember just kind of going through that, talking with you about it. I think and I love the way like I worded it, but also how you worded it, like getting your foot in the door, because it's not just like you're going to class. Like you're going to
Hmm.
class with people that are like-minded. You're going to class with people,
Yeah.
the teachers have already had some credits on IMDb or whatever, right? So like that is the cool thing is now you're getting known, and the ambition really shines through because you either do something like that or you don't. And the people that do, like, okay, now there's actual exposure, for these teachers. Like if
Yeah.
anybody goes and asks them, hey, I'm casting this, right? Now they know who you are. So, I mean, I always say, I feel like I was given the wrong advice where it's like not who you know, it's who knows you. And I think that's an important thing because, I mean, yeah, you and I both, I think doing like Downtown Rams and doing our content and stuff, I think maybe we thought we knew people a little bit more than maybe they knew us. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, they're friend of the show. And then I mean, you and I both know like we've had people that like just never get back to us afterwards. And I mean that like that's totally their prerogative. But as I've gotten older, I realize it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And so being in that environment, I think it really caters to what that is. And I think it's a great position to be in. But you do UCB, which is cool because you
Yeah.
follow in the footsteps of your idol in Aubrey. But you also do Second City. And,
Hmm.
you kind of alluded to the idea like it wasn't supposed to be a permanent thing staying in Chicago. And I remember us talking about this as well. And then you kind of just, really embraced it and it did become permanent. And you did end up moving there, which I like that you did. Um, but now, you're with the Second City, conservatory, which is a huge deal. And I'm proud of you in that regard. What do you enjoy most about in-person classes as opposed to, obviously no knock on UCB, nothing they could do, but as opposed to like being remote? And then what do you enjoy most about the whole conservatory program that you're a part of?
So I think the UCB thing, was I mean I did the whole program. I believe it was 4 levels that they have at Upright Citizens Brigade. So once you do all 4 classes, then you graduate and you get a cool certificate signed by Amy Poehler and all the other UCB founders. But Amy obviously is one of my heroes, so that was amazing. But yeah, I think just doing it remote and in a pandemic was I think it was still really fulfilling, but there was obviously this element of like, you're not on stage, you're not in person, you're not doing shows for like crowds you can see, right? So, I learned a lot from that program, and I had so many amazing teachers at UCB that I feel so privileged to have gotten to like work with and learn from, and who have really, really impressive resumes of students they've taught, of so many cool. It was like my first day. I don't think it was my first day, but my first class at UCB I took level 1. My teacher was Ari Vikaitis, who's awesome and he's amazing, and I still catch up with him from time to time. And he was Kate McKinnon's Improv 1 teacher at UCB, and I love Kate McKinnon. And I joked with him, like, I've got to be your most talented student since Kate, right? No, but just there was so many really like I said, it was such an amazing experience to get to work with those people, and I met so many amazing friends who live in New York or LA or Canada, wherever they live, that I've gotten to meet outside of class now. But there was obviously kind of like this thing where it's like I really want to do improv more, and I want to do it in person. And being in Chicago, I mean, the Second City is, arguably the most historic comedy institution in the United States. And it's right here, right in Chicago. And, so many people that I admire, I mentioned earlier, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Rachel Dratch, Gilda Radner, all went through the Second City in Chicago. So I was like, if I'm going to do it, like I want to do it at, one of the best places I can do it. I want to train there. I want to learn from these teachers, just being in the building at the Second City. feels like such an honor, and being a student there feels like such an honor just because of the legacy that it has. So yeah, I in 2022, or was it 23? 23, I started classes at the Second City, and I've done their entire core program, and now I'm in the conservatory program, which is awesome. And then I'm going to audition for their grad review program, so we'll see if I get to that next step or not. But it's been awesome. At the Second City, they're first class. Just absolutely amazing. So many talented people go through there, and have just in their history. And I feel very honored to be a part of it. And again, get to learn from another amazing set of teachers and work with so many cool people.
No, it's really cool, and I mean they have just so many, like the alumni. I mean, Steve
Mm,
Carell, Bill Murray, Chris Farley, Tina Fey, like you mentioned, Martin Short, Dan Levy. They just have a lot. Or Eugene Levy, excuse me. They have so many, and
yeah,
that's the real cool thing, because that gets. I know you have to keep your composure, but that does have to get like exciting. Knowing, okay,
it
I'm
does.
walking in
Yeah,
similar shoes as these people that I'm watching their TV show or I'm watching the movie tonight. Like, that's a big deal, you know? And so it's interesting though, because we'll get more into it, over the course of this interview. But it's interesting because you do have kind of that, you know, improv, stand up comedy, and then acting. And it's like, not everybody, and this is the big thing, you don't have to choose one or the other. Like, a lot of these, like you mentioned to me, I mean, you saw Aubrey, was it her Broadway play or whatever? I
yeah.
mean, like, that's, there you go. Like, being multifaceted is cool. But as far as you know, everything going on, you had mentioned to me you're taking classes at Improv Olympic.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that, because this is actually me
Yeah.
asking. I don't know anything about it, so I'm learning. Like, I knew a little bit about Second City from our conversations, but tell me a little bit about Improv Olympic and what made you to decide to do that and what it's all about.
Yeah, so I completed the core program at the Second City, and then I auditioned for Second City Conservatory and got in, and that's what I'm doing now is I'm doing their conservatory program. But I had a lot of friends from my core program at the Second City who didn't go on to conservatory, and they wanted to still do improv, and particularly we wanted to do it all with our like friend group from our core Second City program. And Improv Olympic is another historic comedy institution in Chicago, kind of a branch, or like kind of I guess you could say a branch of the Second City. I mean, so many: Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Rachel Dratch, Jason Sudeikis, Tim Meadows, all these people went through Improv Olympic as well. So it just kind of was a no-brainer for us to try Improv Olympics program. And I'm in currently taking my first class there. I'm back at level 1, which is like a really fulfilling experience, that because I think at first I was a little bit nervous about it because I'm in conservatory right at Second City, and it's kind of more intense, and we're getting more into like pitching sketches and re-improvisation and all of that stuff. And so to go kind of through the process and then kind of go back to level 1 was a little intimidating at first. And I thought, what's going to happen? Is this going to feel so weird now having to learn the basics again? But it's actually been really fulfilling to kind of like refresh like some skills that I think I've lost kind of going through the motions at the Second City. And IO also is really focused on like long form improv, which is different from the Second City. And I did long form through UCB and like the Herald structure. So people who are familiar with improv might be familiar with that. So kind of getting to do more long form again through IO has been really, really fun. And yeah, it's just another one of those places that like, for me, comedy institutions or stand up clubs or whatever they might be always just feel like home now. through my years of like kind of doing, improv and sketch or whatever it might be, I just feel like when I walk into these places, like the Second City, or like the Hollywood Improv is a place that you and I visit when we're in LA, and we know somebody who works there who very graciously has given us tours and given us tickets to shows there. But when I've gone to LA, several times, I just go to the Hollywood Improv and I sit at the bar. And even though I don't particularly know a ton of people there by name, I just feel at home. And I had that same feeling actually 2 days ago. I walked into IO and I was there before all my friends and nobody was really there. And they have like a really nice bar. And I just sat at the bar and I ordered like an appetizer to eat and was waiting for my class to start. And I just had this thought where I was like, this just feels like I haven't been going here very long, but I just feel like at peace. I just walk into IO and I feel like I'm at home and I feel safe. And I feel like all these people are, a big part of improv is like supporting each other. That's the whole point, is you go on stage with your group and you will like die by the sword together. Like the goal is to make other people like lift them up and feel good. So yeah, I mean, I've really loved IO and I feel at home there already, and everybody's been super nice there, and it's just another place where you have so many awesome teachers that you get to learn from. So yeah, I'm doing that once a week alongside the Second City. So right now I'm doing both of them, and we'll see. I mentioned grad review. I'm going to audition for it. I might get in the first time. I might not. We'll see. But I'm hoping to be doing both still for a while. It's busy.
Hey, busy's good. Busy
Yeah.
is good, and I know the feeling. So I love that you're doing all that, because I mean it shows like the dedication and that resume building and everything. Um, Speaking of resume building, you recently made your acting debut in a short film. How did that go?
Yes, I did. That was cool, and it was good, and it was kind of a big opportunity because I think like, you know so doing like sketch and improv and everything is obviously very comedy driven. Not all improv or sketch has to be comedy, but like 99% of the time it is, right? It's to make people laugh and have a good time. Not that there isn't grounded emotion during parts of that, but overall it's a comedy setting. So it was a big kind of opportunity for me to show that I can do more than just like comedy, and I can, be serious and take on these roles. And it was kind of a muscle, like a dramatic muscle that I hadn't gotten to flex in a while, so that was a really exciting challenge for me. And yeah, just learning kind of, acting on camera is a lot different than acting like on the stages, because I'm used to kind of doing the live thing, and so kind of learning the ropes of that and learning blocking and kind of what the production on a film set is like was really cool.
No, that is really cool. And yeah, it's like, again, you're just putting more energy out there, building your resume, you're adding more to your arsenal, as you mentioned earlier. And I think that goes a long way, because, I mean, and I will also say, doing what we do and how, you're growing a following. I mean, I sent it to you. Maya Hawk, I think, is the one that talked about it. It's like nowadays, like everyone's so focused on like Instagram followers. So it's good. You're doing so many different things to kind of put yourself out there. And, if there's ever like an audition or an opportunity, you have a lot of tiebreakers, because some other people might not have some of the things that you have. And I think that's a special thing.
Yeah, I love storytelling and whatever medium that's through. I just enjoy it, and I love characters, and I love getting emotionally tied to characters, right? Whether it's, you know, through comedy or through drama or whatever it might be. I love it, and I love kind of picking the brain of these people that I play. So it was a really kind of new opportunity to kind of get to do that through more of a dramatic lens than a comedic lens. So yeah, definitely was a really good experience to have.
Now, do you think improv could be maybe used as a path to acting, vice versa, or do you see it more as like two different things?
No, I mean, I think that I think it can be either. I think improv in itself is can be in a career on its own, and there's so many talented improvisers who, you know, don't get into the acting world or the film industry or whatever. But then there's a lot of people who do. Like it's a very improv and sketch is a very like good vehicle to get into the acting industry. I think that, if you ask most people who do improv or sketch, they want to be actors, working actors. But not all the time. And I think it can go either way. But yeah, I think that a lot of the tools that you have to use for improv or sketch, you have to have, as an actor. I mean, it is acting in itself. It's just acting without a script. But you're still playing characters and you still have to stay in character and you still have to kind of build, these worlds for these characters to live in, on a stage for people. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of like the SNL thing. A lot of people from SNL, I mean, come from an improv and sketch background. So you go improv, sketch, SNL, and then they go on to make movies or do movies simultaneously. So yeah, I think it's a really good tool to have as an actor to be able to improvise. Not that you have to have that skill, but a lot of actors find themselves in situations or working with certain directors or working with certain writers that they want you to improvise. And so obviously having a thorough background in that is a very good tool to have.
Yeah, I think so often in this society we get caught up in one size fits all. And, I think there's just so many different industries that show you that's not the case. And you could just talk about, from this perspective, like Adam Devine, like started late, he's kind of one of those late kind of emergers. How about Hugh Jackman, who's being in, Les Miserables and being in these plays and he's asked to play Wolverine, right? And you look at football and like Kurt Warner, he wasn't drafted, but that didn't stop him from winning a Super Bowl. And I just read like the craziest story about Giancarlo Esposito that I don't know if you knew about, but he went through hell and back essentially, was going to give up on life. And he ended up getting the role in Breaking Bad, and it saved his life and his career. His career shot up after that. So it's, again, there are ways to maybe put yourself in a better situation to succeed. But I feel like, and to your point, you can have this, you can have that. Just because you don't have that doesn't mean you can't do this. And I think that's kind of a beautiful
Right.
thing. And it's why I think our paths, and big reason why I love doing this show, is that we get to talk about different careers and stories and life stories and all of that, because not everybody walks the same path and we all go through different things. I'm a college dropout, but I feel really good about where I'm at, and there's not anything I'd rather be doing than be able to create content full time. Other people might say, I would never want to create content. I want to go to college. I want to graduate college. I want to be a doctor or something. And that's the beauty of it, and I feel like we all kind of have, and obviously I know people know this, but I do think it gets kind of blurred in society that just because, maybe you want to be an actor doesn't mean you have to just focus on acting. It doesn't mean you can't do improv, doesn't mean you can't do the sports media stuff. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like I have that kind of regret all the time, kind of back to when I really kind of was struggling with mental health stuff. And I'm like, if I just got it together 3 years sooner, right? If I just was able to kind of like work through it and get the confidence sooner, I could have started doing this way before I did, right? Because I started really around 23, 24, which is like kind of like most people, like a lot of people start at 18, right? Like they start while they're in college, they're going to college and they're doing UCB or the Second City, wherever they're at, and they're doing this. I did college and then did it, right? So I definitely have those moments where I have to stop myself and be like, you are on the path that you're supposed to be. It's okay. When you're doing scenes with 19-year-olds, like it's okay. Like or whatever. Because I've worked with people. One of the beautiful things about improv is like I've done scenes and worked with people who are way younger than me, but people who are way older than me. And everybody, like in the improv scene, is like you can meet at very different points in your life. And like some of my friends that I've made through improv are like 20 years older than me. Some of them are like 5 years younger than me. So it's a really cool kind of beautiful experience to get to work with people of all ages and learn from people of all ages. And yeah, I think especially in like the acting industry or the comedy industry, it's really harmful to put yourself on a timeline and compare yourself to everybody else's timeline because things do not happen like linear at all. For some, most of the time, most of the time you do have to put in years and years and years of work. But sometimes like you don't. Sometimes,
Yeah.
you get something that you want right away. So I think in any industry, it's probably good to not do that, but particularly in the entertainment industry, putting yourself on a timeline or like trying to compare yourself to somebody else's timeline, none of it matters at all. You kind of just have to do, what you want. And yeah, I feel very, like I said, I've worked with so many great people of all different backgrounds, of all different jobs, doing improv and sketch. So I feel very lucky for that.
It's funny you bring that up because like you don't know. Sometimes you'll have a bump in the road. Sometimes you'll find a pot of gold and you're not even looking, right? And I like recently I just finished the show Suits, and it's funny just listening to the cast in these interviews. You can see it's like they had already finished this and it was not loved like the way that they thought it should have been. So they moved on with their lives, their careers. Some people moved on from their careers entirely. And later on, because of the whole thing with Meghan Markle and marrying what's his name,
Prince Harry.
Prince Harry. I don't follow any of that, but because of that, people go back and they watch Suits, and it gets put on Netflix, and it blows up overnight. And now all of a sudden, you have these guys and like these actresses and actors that they were doing commercials, they were done, they retired, whatever. And now they're being asked, like Patrick J. Adams, who plays Mike Ross in Suits, now he's going to be in the next Taylor Sheridan project, stuff like that, where it was like he was done, like he was over, he was overacting. And I like that because it is a reminder when you put something out there, you don't know how it's going to go maybe down the road. We've seen different things. We always hear like the term, oh, that's a cult classic. It has a cult following. People love it, but like it's not loved, but it's loved by certain people. You don't know if something you put out there into the ether, maybe it doesn't get picked up overnight. Maybe the first year it doesn't do that well, second year, third year, whatever. Maybe 5-10 years from now, that could be the reason why you get cast in some big project or something. And I think there's a real beauty to that. So I think to your point, we always talk about the negative. That's the positive. Now, the negative side, like, for instance, a lot of things going on with the strike, you can't do certain things in that moment. So you have to find a way to kind of, deal with that. Right. So there are bumps in the road that you have to go through, but there are also some things that, there's a light at the end of the tunnel type stuff. So you got to keep up with it. But I want to ask you here, this is just straight out, like, if you've ever been to a family reunion, you probably get asked, oh, what are you going to do? What do you want to do when everyone's been asked that. But I think in this case, what is your ideal end game with the two, acting, improv? Do you want to do like improv full time? Do you want to become a Hollywood actress? Like, where do you see yourself creatively in the next 5 to 10 years?
So it's not the answer that's interesting. I generally don't know. I think that I just really want to be able to tell stories that I want to tell. Whatever medium I'm doing that through, I don't know that it matters so much. I deeply, deeply love improv. I deeply love sketch. Comedy as well. I want to start doing more sketch. I want to start writing my own stuff. So a lot of what I've been doing is, improv. which is, you don't write it out beforehand. A little bit of re-improvisation we're getting into in conservatory, but I'd love to start doing more sketch where either I'm writing my own material or I'm performing somebody else's material. And I haven't gotten to do that as much as just pure improv. I've only done one sketch show at the Second City so far. So either it's improv or sketch or it's films or, TV, whatever it is, I want to be telling stories and I want to be, finding fulfillment through these characters. My dream has always been like the Parks and Rec style TV show, the mockumentary. Was my obsession for so long. And I was like, if I could do anything in the world, I would love to do, whether I'm writing it or if somebody else is writing it. I'd love to do a mockumentary TV show with all of my friends that I've made from UCB in the Second City. If I ever got to do that, I think the biggest thing is just playing characters that I love with people that I love. And I've gotten to build a really, really cool community through UCB in the Second City and people who I love to play with and improvise with. And I would love to continue working with the same people, and again, whether that's maybe a Second City main stage show, maybe we get on the main stage over the Second City and that would be such an honor to do, a review show over there. Whether it's through a film or a show, whatever it looks like, I just want to be telling stories. But I did really enjoy the experience I had, on a short film, and there is something a little bit like almost more calming to not have the live aspect involved. Because I'm so used to like doing these live shows where like you can't like re-say something, like you're up there and you get one shot. And so I did really enjoy that, and definitely open to that. The big question I think everybody keeps asking me, as I thought you were going to ask, is do you want to be on Saturday Night Live?
Do you want to?
I mean, yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, yes and no. My answer to this changes depending on the day. Because here's the thing, I love Saturday Night Live so much. I'm such a Saturday Night Live fan, as you know. I watch every week. I've watched through the good seasons. I've watched through the not so good seasons. I sit down and I watch it because I respect that institution so much. And everybody who works on that show is the best at what they do. And that is like the peak for sketch comedy. Yeah. Right? Everything that we're doing at the Second City or UCB, those people are like trying to get on Saturday Night Live. Like that is, or they're trying obviously to build an acting career, but Saturday Night Live is the pinnacle of sketch comedy. So I always used to say no to that answer because I was so terrified of it. And I don't know that I think I just respect that institution so much that I was like, there's no way that I could do it, or I'm not built for it. As I get more comfortable and I get more into this scene, I'm like, I would definitely do it. I need to stop giving this answer of like, I'm too scared. Like, yes, I'm terrified, but I would love to be on Saturday Night Live. Again, that's a very long pipe dream, but I love that show so much. But that is kind of the thing that everybody asks me all the time when they hear I'm at the Second City, because it's such a pipeline for that show. So everybody, like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm at the Second City. They're like, do you want to be in Saturday Night Live? So that's what I thought you were going to ask me.
Actually, no, I had one more question in this segment, and then we'll get into sports media, because that is still part of you. It's just, not the main part, right? Mm-hmm. But I want to ask you this because, kind of talking about acting and improv and just all the different things. Do you find yourself interested at all? Would you be interested at all if somebody approached you and asked you to do, say, voiceover work or maybe stand-up comedy down the road? Are those still things that you're, keeping in mind, or are you kind of out on those?
Yeah. So voiceover work, yes. Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends. Yes, I would love to do voiceover work. It's storytelling. There's a lot of animated shows and films that I really love, so would definitely be open to that. Stand-up comedy, I think I would like to try. I don't know. I think there's something about stand up that there's kind of a mental wall for me. I think, like I mentioned earlier with improv, is it's all about your team. Like the goal of improv is like you are all lifting each other up. Your job is to make your castmate look good and make your ensemble look good, and nobody's going to let you fail. If you get up on stage with your improv team, it's going to work out. And if it doesn't work out, you're all failing together. Like everybody is working together and it's not pre-written. I think with stand up is so terrifying to me because I mean, you are sinking or swimming alone. You are up on that stage with material that you wrote beforehand, and you kind of are like dying by the sword. And I think that there's something about that feels like really scary to me in a way where I'm like, I don't know that that's going to be my thing. It kind of goes against everything that I'm used to. But I've written a lot of stand up. And I almost did stand up when you and I were in that was a crazy story. When you and I were in LA, I could share that story. But that was
share it.
Well, so Jake and I were in LA in 2019. So almost 6 years ago now.
Was this the night after or was this the night of the Rams game that we went to? Because that was a day game. Was it after?
It was the night before. It was the night before. So the night before the Rams game, we went to the Hollywood Improv for the first time. Like I mentioned earlier, a listener of our show works with the Hollywood Improv in some capacity. We'll protect their privacy, but they were able to kind of get us into the improv, and we got like a really cool tour of the Hollywood Improv. And for those of you who don't know, it's like a very historic stand-up club in Los Angeles. One of the most, I would say, in the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so it's called Hollywood Improv, but it's stand-up. So I know the name might be a little misleading, but it's a stand-up comedy venue. And while we were there before a show, I was having a drink at the bar, and this woman kind of approaches me and starts talking to me, and we kind of just are having a conversation. I don't know who she is. She was like, "My name is Rita. How are you?" And I think she complimented my outfit, and we just were talking. And Jake, you were talking to our friend at the time, who was also at the Hollywood Improv. And I don't know who this woman is, but we're hitting it off. And then she mentions that she basically worked, so her name is Rita, and she worked at the Hollywood Improv, and she was like kind of like the gatekeeper for for people who get to perform there for stand-up comedy. So like if you want to perform at the Hollywood Improv, and again, I don't know if she still works there or not. This was back in 2019.
Yeah, a lot could have changed since then.
Yeah, a lot could have changed. So just keep that in mind. But she was a very renowned, like very big name at the Hollywood Improv. And I did not know this at the time. And I kind of had told her about improv and kind of, my background. And I hadn't started classes at UCB yet, but I told her kind of about like, I'm trying to get into it. I don't know. We might be moving to LA. And she's like, "Do you want to do stand up?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." I think I said something like, "I'd try it," something crazy like that. And she's like, "Well, there's an open mic here tomorrow night. And if you come to the open mic, I will make sure that you get on the stage." And she's like, "You should do it, performing stand up at the Hollywood Improv. Like, you don't turn that down." And I was like, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden she walks away, and our friend comes over and he goes, "Do you know who that was?" And I was like, "No, I don't." I was like, "I guess she's like hosting an open mic night or whatever." And he was like, "That was Rita." And he's like, "She's a very big name here." And he was like, "If she told you to come to the open mic night and she'd get you on stage, you go and you do it." And I was like, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into?" I was like, "I don't know what to do." I was like, maybe she'll forget. And so that night, Jake and I were in my hotel room. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And I was like,
the remote.
Yeah, I was using the remote as the mic. I was like using my notes app and my phone, and I was like firing away. I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I've never done stand up. I've never thought about doing stand up, but now I've got to do stand up because Rita asked me to do it, and we're at the Hollywood Improv, and you don't turn down doing a chance to do stand up at the Hollywood Improv in Los Angeles. And we were up for till 2 a.m. writing this set. And I had something. It was not very good. It was okay. It was not worthy of the Hollywood Improv, but again, it was something. And so the next night, as we went to the day game at the Rams,
Yes,
and
that's
then
what it
that
was.
night was the open mic. So we like come back, I shower, I change, and I'm freaked out, but we go. We're like, we're going to the Hollywood Improv, and we get stuck in the worst traffic. It was a sign. It was really, it might have been a sign from God because I had no business sharing that set on the stage of the Hollywood Improv. But long story short, we missed it. So we go to get to the open mic and it's already midway through. And when I come in and I'm like, Rita, I'm so sorry. Da da. And she's like, no, it's all cool. She's like, I just can't get you on the stage because I already had the names up there. But she let us sit with her and like remember in the back
Yeah.
where she was at. And
She
so
was
I
really
was like,
nice.
she was really nice and I'd love to chat with her again. But that it was kind of one of those things where like I was bummed because I was like that would have been such a cool opportunity. But I was also relieved because I was like I had no business get like it would have not gone well and everybody killed it at that open night.
Yeah, they were really
I don't
good.
know. There was a lot of really really good people and
Remember all those
whoever
people
was
that
the
were waiting outside? Like they let us in. Like she let us in with her, and there was a
yeah.
line like just like
Mhm.
wrapped around the building, and you felt bad because we got there, and it's the middle of the thing,
Late.
and there's all
Yeah.
those people still waiting.
Yeah, we definitely we have very good friends at the Hollywood Improv, so shout out to them. And like I said, when I go to Los Angeles, I still go hang out at the bar and hang out with whatever comedians are there that night. But that was the closest I've ever gotten to doing stand up. I don't like I said, I would try it. I would like to try it. I know myself and I don't know that it would work out so well for me, but who knows? Maybe I would try it and be like, huh, I really like this and I'm suited for this. But no, those people who are good at stand up, I respect because I just like, that's terrifying to me. Um,
I remember
so to
that
answer your
whole
question,
yeah.
the whole night,
Well,
no,
I
no,
just
that was
remember us
crazy.
running to try to find a bathroom because
I don't remember.
it was after that, and our Uber driver kept telling like, "Oh yeah, I'll pick you up here," and he kept moving the pickup spot. And by the time like
Yeah.
we're running like 4 blocks away, like it just
Yeah, we were there really late. Yeah, we
yeah
were on like, I think Fairfax.
yeah
At some point we were like, yeah, I don't know where we were. We like past Fairfax High School. Like we were just like in the thick of it. But that was a really fun night. And we got a
it
really cool
was.
tour. Um, and yeah, I can't wait to be back at the improv. But yeah, it's just another example of like the improv, the Second City IO. I feel very, very lucky to feel like at home in these places and to have made so many awesome friends who are in those spaces because I mean, just so many incredible legends have come from these institutions that, we all know and love. And speaking of Saturday Night Live, by the way, I think that this episode, I don't know if it comes out tonight or tomorrow, but tonight.
I'm gonna try to get it out as soon as
Okay.
I can.
Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is because for anybody listening to this who's a big Saturday Night Live fan, tomorrow night, Sunday, February 16th, it'll be 8 Eastern time, is Saturday Night Live's live 50th anniversary show. And like all the OGs almost are coming back. Like it's going to be this massive event.
That's
Everybody
cool.
who I mentioned earlier, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Rachel Dratch, Will Ferrell, all of the like early 2000s, Kristen Wiig. I don't know if Bill Hader's going to be there. Chevy Chase. So going way back. I mean, Tim Meadows. All these people are going to be back. So if you're an SNL head like I am, this is like our Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl Sunday after the real Super Bowl Sunday, literally. And it's going to be a very, very big event. And I would encourage everybody, whether you like Saturday Night Live or not, it's going to be such a big occasion to see so many superstars who have like mastered their craft be together in like one room and doing a big show. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. So I wanted to shout that out because we've been talking about Saturday Night Live and all these Second City people. And it's kind of poetic. I think exactly 50 Second City alumni have gone on to SNL, which is crazy because it's the 50th season and now we're at 50 Second City alumni. I just saw an article about that. So
Damn. So
poetic.
it sounds like 51. Like you have to kind of slide in there as the 51.
I definitely won't be 51. I definitely won't be 51. I mean the Saturday Night Live people, they like to poach from the Second City. They will stop by
Damn.
and yeah, one of the cool things, I don't know if I this isn't nothing to do with Saturday Night Live other than it was a cast member of Saturday Night Live. But I think I told you I had a show one night and Jason Sudeikis ended up being he wasn't at my show, but he was at the Second City to see a different show at the same time and I was like, "Oh, that would have been so funny if he accidentally had walked into my show instead of the main stage show."
Someday.
And I after my show I like got on Instagram and the Second City was like Jason Sudeikis was in the house tonight and he got a picture with the main stage cast and everything and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." I was performing there the same night that he stopped by. I really love him as an actor, so that would have been cool.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe next time the Saturday Night Live people are in Chicago, I'll happen to have a good night.
Yeah.
Probably
And
not.
I mean, hey, you never know, but you got to put yourself in those situations. And I just think while we had the right mindset, you and I both, because I was pushing you to do it back at the improv and you were really trying to force yourself to do it. I think while we had the right mindset, because you're trying to strike while the iron's hot, I think God kind of took the wheel and was like, this ain't your
You're not built
time.
for yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not built. I will try it. I there's a lot of skills I think I need to develop to be able to be a competent stand-up. I think you have it or you don't. I think I'm much more comfortable in the improv sketch space,
Yeah.
but I have a lot of my friends in that space are also stand-ups. So there's definitely a lot of crossover, and I have mad respect for people who do stand-up. I would love to be able to do it because I do love it as an art form. I just I think I'd have to really try to like something about the pre-written jokes is hard for
Yeah.
me.
I mean, you could just do what like it feels like a lot of the stand-up comedians are doing nowadays on TikTok and Instagram and just do crowd work the entire time.
There was a time where I really was into I wrote I like back in when I first started at UCB, I wrote a lot of stand up. I have a lot of I mean nothing new, but I wrote a ton of stand up because I really was like I'm gonna really try to become as well-rounded as I can, which I think is a good idea. I think if you can do stand up, you should do it. I think if you can do stand up and sketch and improv, do it all. I think if you are a comedy fan, you should dip your toes in whatever you can because you never know. I'm saying right now, oh, I won't be good at stand up. But if I were to try it and like have some success with it, who's to say that maybe I wouldn't keep going and do it and find that I actually really do like it? You never
Yeah.
know. I always tell people, especially when I come across people who are like 19, 20, 21, and they're like they're first getting into like improv or they have questions about like improv versus sketch. I'm always like, just do everything. Because that's what I wish. Like if I could go back to my younger self, I'd just be like, really do everything and do it as much as you can because if you could just be really well rounded, even if you're not good at something particularly, but you understand the ropes of it, it's going to benefit you. If you understand how things work and you know, are able to kind of know the history of a lot of these really cool people and institutions, like do it. Just teach yourself all that you can. That being said, I don't foresee myself doing stand up anytime soon. You never
Well,
know, but I don't foresee it.
you never know. You could learn something with IO and just be like, "Yep, I'm ready to be a stand-up comedian." You don't know.
They do. They have stand up nights there. They have them at the Second City too. I mean, Chicago is like the hidden comedy capital of the United States. Which hidden is I don't know if it's a fair word because I mean the Second City is so iconic, right? I mean
Yeah.
that you know all of these places that in LA and New York stemmed from the Second City. So, you know, if you are a comedy fan, you're very, very familiar. I mean, the names that you mentioned earlier, but particularly like Chris Farley, Gilda Radner, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, all these people came from the Second City mindset, and performing there. So yeah, I love it. I love
That's
it. Love
awesome.
comedy.
No, comedy's great. And now, I mean, I guess now we wrap it up, right? No, because I know there are people that are like, oh, come on, I want to hear the sports stuff. So we pivot now to sports media part of your life. How I got to meet you, work with you, get to know you, and ultimately become best friends with you. And I guess I want to know, what has the sports world been like to you? What has it meant to you? Because I mean, it's been a lot, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Like, we've gone through some stuff. So,
Yeah.
how has it been?
I mean, it's been one of the most unexpected joys, of my life so far, because I had no intention. A lot of people, I think that my career aspirations were sports media and not the improv stuff. They think that, like the podcast and the NFL coverage is kind of like was my thing that I was mostly focused on, and not everything else. But it's kind of been the opposite. But the sports media stuff took off first. So, I had no intention of being on a sports show or a sports podcast or, covering the Rams. And as listeners of our show, know, they might have heard this story before, but I'll repeat it. You and I crossed paths because of a tweet. I had tweeted the Rams during the 2019 playoff run. I was in a blizzard and I was wearing a Rams beanie, another
Yep.
beanie. And I tweeted the photo and the Rams shared it. And when they did that, I got an influx of all these like Rams fans following me on Twitter. And I didn't even know, like, at the time that you could do that on Twitter. Like, I didn't use Twitter for that. So it was kind of a new experience for me. And then you and I connected. And long story short, you found out that I followed the Rams very, very closely. You invited me onto the podcast and people liked it. And I kept coming back to the podcast, and then I was the co-host, but I didn't have like that plan. I'd never been on a podcast before. I didn't, know what to expect. But I love the Rams, and they were a very big passion of mine. I mean, the NFL and watching football is a very big passion of mine. So, we kind of started this journey together, and kind of building Downtown Rams into kind of the show that we wanted and what it is today. It was new, and yeah, a lot of people didn't like me off the bat for no reason. Before people even heard me on the show, people got really, for some reason, upset that I was becoming a co-host of Downtown Rams, and they questioned my credibility and all these things. So I kind of had to, it was a good way to walk through the fire. It was very good, like baptism by fire. And,
Yeah.
I think it's the resilience that you and I had. I mean, we took that show and we grinded it out for a long time, as you and I have talked about on the show, and people who listened to us for years know. Like, if you're a newer listener, I mean, Jake and I, hours and hours of, I mean, we interviewed one season 300 NFL. Well, I don't know if it was 300 in a season. That might be pushing it. Maybe it was
It was like
150.
maybe 200.
Yeah, 200 people that we interviewed. I mean, I was in grad school. I was like working 3 jobs and in grad school and doing
Insane.
Downtown Rams. And I know you were working full time and doing Downtown Rams. I mean, we were like, by the end of like those nights, every night when we were interviewing 6 people in a night, it'd be like midnight, and I was like, there was nothing left in my brain. Like,
I know. And we
I
would
was
still
completely,
chat after we
yeah,
finished
and we
it.
would
We'd
still
just be like,
chat.
we'd be sleep
Yeah,
talking essentially.
literally. I mean, it was a very crazy time, but it all paid off because we were able to kind of like build, this following, that we built through the show, and it's taken off. But I think just being in sports media and having the show got me comfortable with, probably got me more comfortable with like being in front of people and speaking, right? And being in front of people, especially Because when we started the show, it was just audio, and then you wanted to move to video, and I did not want to do video. And then
I was right on
eventually,
that. I
yeah,
was
and then
right.
eventually we started doing video, and that got me used to like being on camera and having to, and when we would do things live, having people watching me live, and then, that could have translated into doing improv. So all these things I think kind of work together, and I think just being used to dealing, yeah, like being in the public eye, even though it's a very different atmosphere. I think sports fans are much less forgiving and they're much harsher than comedy fans. I mean, if I'm being honest, I
Oh
think
yeah.
I think putting myself through like the sports world and sports internet, they're much more skeptical of women than like comedy fans or movie fans, right? Because you're used to seeing women on screen. You're used to seeing women performing improv or sketch comedy. In the sports world, for some reason, there's still a certain demographic of men who are not used to seeing women in that space, and they don't like it. They don't even hear your takes. They just automatically don't like it. So I think it has given me much thicker skin being able to deal with all of that. That all the other stuff like is like heckling doesn't bother me. Like I've dealt with much worse. You know what I mean? I've dealt with the worst being a woman in sports media. So yeah, I think that it's very much helped me.
And
In if anything with
how do
go
you
ahead.
do that? Because I mean, you told me early on, and I'm bringing this up. I'm not going to use names, but I'm bringing it up. You told me early on that you would get DMs um from people that were just asking just profound shit, like insane shit. And it's
Mhm.
like all you want to do is do your job. And obviously it wasn't it was a job for us in how we worked, but it was really like a hobby that like I mean I was trying to turn it into a career and we were doing it, but just you used to tell me that, and I mean you had to normally calm me down because I get so pissed and I just start
Yeah.
cussing and be like, oh, are you kidding me? I'm gonna it's like no, don't, you'll make it worse. But it pissed me off because I heard it. I heard that this was a thing where guys, maybe athletes, maybe famous people would slide into a girl's DMs and ask for pics or whatever. And I just kind of assumed like it was probably happening, but like I had never had any, experience with that. Like my sister never told me that was, happening with her, or I didn't know anybody that was happening to. And then you told me and you explained what was going on. And it made me so angry because I think
Yeah.
that's such a vile thing to do because essentially it's like there's just a lack of respect. And I think what you were doing, obviously what you still do, but what you were doing with Downtown Rams and, a lot of people don't realize you were booking most of, if not all the guests and still getting that kind of, not all of them, obviously, but every now and then you get DMs that were really kind of repulsive. How did you deal with that? Because I don't want to sound ignorant. I know women go through this and they probably go through this in high school and, college, but it's a little different when you have these people that you feel like are kind of your peers in a sense. Like we're all professionals
Yeah.
here and then they're kind of crossing that line and being unfair to you. How do you deal with that?
Well, at first I didn't deal with it very well.
Mm.
I think in the very early time of me doing Downtown Rams. So I think there was two separate issues. I think the men sliding in the DMs and being, repulsive or sending pics or asking or, just being derogatory, that was just disheartening, and not just disheartening, but it came, I think, from a space of where it was clear to me they just didn't respect me. Right? They see me as, a woman and I'm trying to, talk about sports, and they basically were telling me, we don't care. Like, send me pictures, or we don't care, you're hot, right?
Yeah.
Or, and that hurt and was disheartening and was repulsive and felt violating. in a way that I wasn't used to. And so I didn't handle it very well. My instinct was always to fight, right? If I were getting, back when we first started and we would get like parody accounts made of us or people saying these repulsive,
That's true. I forgot
sexist,
about that.
yeah, these sexist things to me. My instinct at first was always like, I have to defend myself and I have to show that that's like, they can't talk to me like that, right? So I definitely not overreacted because I was very justified in my reaction, but I definitely responded to more than I should have. Not the DMs. The DM situation with all the repulsive stuff, I always just blocked and shut down. But like when people would go out of their way to kind of like tweet these things saying that I wasn't qualified or I had no business being on Downtown Rams, or they're like, oh, well, she's only booking all these guests because she's a woman and these athletes must, want to just do something nice for her because they think she's hot, or whatever weird shit that people was saying. My instinct when I first started those first like 6 months is like, I have to like fight back. Like I have to prove something. And I think it took me a while to be like, you know what? I don't have to respond to these people. I don't have to prove anything. This show is taking off and they're mad about it. They're mad because I'm a woman and I'm booking these interviews, and some of it was people that were also trying to do the same thing we were. And I didn't have the perspective to be like, yeah, I didn't have at the time, I think I was so hurt by these things that were being said that I didn't have kind of like the hindsight of being like, well, maybe they're mad because I'm booking the guests that they want to book. Or maybe they're mad because everybody's listening to our show this week. I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was taking everything word for word of what they were writing to me of like, you're not good and you suck and like women shouldn't be talking about sports. I felt that I needed to prove something, and I finally had to get to a space, like at the space where I'm at now, it's like, I do not care. I will block without any hesitation. Any and everybody can get blocked, and I've said it before. I literally don't care. Like I have people who follow me that will get out of pocket and say something rude or derogatory towards me, and I will block them. Therefore, I'm losing a follower. I don't care. I think you have to get to a space where you are kind of like, if I took the time to respond to everybody trying to diminish my credibility because I'm a woman, it would be exhausting and time consuming and a waste of my time that I could spend recording Downtown Rams with you or going to improv. And so to answer the question, I think the best way to deal with it is to just like, those opinions don't matter. Like they just don't. And there's going to be, I think, as anybody who puts himself out there, I mean, I know that you deal with, bullying and terrible tweets and whatever all the time, or I don't know if bullying's the right word because it's like, who are these people? But like, you know what I mean? You deal with comments all the time from people who are out of pocket and saying really rude, untrue things to you. I think women deal with that in that way, in different ways, right? You deal with men who are going to say those sexist, horrible things to you and send you those inappropriate DMs and messages. And I think that you just have to get to a space where you have to just be able to block and move on. Because it only, as our show got bigger, it only got worse. But thankfully, I was able to, through that kind of, like I mentioned earlier, baptism by fire period, because that was so, just being, I was 22, I was 23. I didn't know how to handle this. I didn't know how to handle having all these strangers, these grown 40-year-old men, like in my DMs being inappropriate with me. Like I was so taken off guard and terrified and like feeling like I had to defend myself every time somebody wanted to go spread a lie about me. There was like a lot. Somebody got on Twitter and remember some dude was like, oh, she was asking for money.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? I was like, what?
I know.
I was like, what? What a weird rumor to start. And then I was like, I felt like I had to, I had to get out there and be like, this isn't true. And then he's like, yeah, a ton of people have told me this. And I was like, oh my God, people are going to believe. Like, you have to get to a point where you're just like,
that person also has to have some sort of standing. That dude is a nobody.
He had no proof of it. That was my thing. And again, I should have just blocked.
He's a nobody. On the totem pole, where is he? He's not even on the totem pole.
Oh, I just remember being like, dude, post a screenshot. Like, whatever it is you're talking about, but like he never could because it was totally fake and not true. But again, I think, just getting to a point I would advise anybody in sports media, but particularly women, there's going to be people that make it their mission to knock you down because you're a woman talking sports. And I see it. I got a tweet today, and it wasn't about sports, it was about something else, but somebody was like, "You're a woman." I'm paraphrasing, it was a very vulgar tweet. But they were like,
Of
basically,
course.
you're a woman, which therefore means that you're mentally ill and your opinion doesn't matter. And I was like, there's so much to unpack here, but like I'm just gonna, I get that shit all the time. And you just have to understand that like it's unfortunately it's part of the game, and it's not fair, but people are going to try to diminish you and make you feel small. And if somebody's doing that, it means that you're not, because they're going out of their way, they're taking time to try and harass you.
It's a projection.
And yeah, it's a projection, and they're jealous, or they're hurt, or they're sexist or misogynistic, whatever it is. You got to learn to block it out. So that, I don't think that was a really eloquent way to answer your question, but essentially that's how I deal with things now. I was not very good at it. I'm sure people who have been following our show since the beginning can remember a lot of instances early on that I freaked out, and I definitely didn't have a good reaction to it at first, but now I like to think I'm silent. Now I just block and move on.
I
And
I get
sometimes
it.
there's a troll that I will quote tweet though. Sometimes like if I have a really good like
Oh yeah, just
response, like
body
I'll
them.
just like just a little bit, sometimes like every,
Just
once
kind of
every few
bulletin
months.
board. Just
Yeah,
stick them
why
to the
not? But
bulletin board. Everybody can see their
yeah.
joke.
Yeah,
Make
well,
an
cuz
example of them.
sometimes well, exactly, because I think sometimes, especially like in on Twitter now, just there's a lot more. I think people like the structure of Twitter. I think people feel like they can reply to something and get away with it now, especially when you
Yeah,
have more followers. Like when you have more followers and you have more people responding to your tweets, I think people feel more comfortable. Like, I can get this little dig in, or I could say this horrible thing, and like she won't see it, but if she does see it, she's not going to share it because like all these people are responding. So I think sometimes it's a little fun to be like, congratulations, like all these people are now going to see your stupid comment.
yeah.
But I
But
try
they
to not
hide
do that.
behind the fake avatar, the fake
Right.
name, because I mean, if you were to measure what their spine is made out of, it'd probably be out of Charmin because these
Well,
people are
right.
so goddamn soft.
And
I that's
and
that's
that's
what
the
I've
thing
learned.
with the burners.
That
Well,
is
the
what
thing
I've
with the
learned.
burners is like, these are people who have a, fake profile picture, or like a picture of someone they admire, like an athlete, and they have a fake name, and things they say can't be traced to them, so they can say whatever they
Bingo.
want without accountability. Which, sure, is their right, but it's a very cowardly, thing to do when you are saying that to somebody who has their real name on their
Yeah.
profile, and has a real account. So yeah, it's tough, but it goes kind of into what you were saying earlier. Like, I really think being in the sports media world gave me a spine that I did not have beforehand. I really had to go through like a year of just like,
Well,
and
and
you
to
did
your
too in your own
point,
way.
yeah, but it's different with me, and I want to make this clear for people that don't know. You take over in, let's say, February, March of 2019. I
Mhm.
had already been writing and getting all this negativity since August of 2016. And even before that, when I was writing on message boards. So I feel like it took you, like, you didn't get the 3 years I had before we worked together to really build up that armor. And I still feel like you handled that better than maybe others would have, because I think in that position, like, DTR was somewhat established. I had already had, I think it was like 7,000 or 8,000 followers. So we had a little bit of a following, and you kind of get pushed into this role where there's already people that are hating. And it's like you didn't really get a chance to build up that armor and get used to like all the negativity. There's not just nothing but negativity. There's a little bit of it here and there, but I think you handled it well. And one thing I have to say, and I'm not throwing shade at anybody in particular, but I like, because we were talking about a pretty tough and serious subject. But I got to say, I always admired the fact that you could have gone things a different way, if you know what I mean, as a female creator. You could have used some sex appeal. You could have done some things that other women are doing, and you didn't. You never did. You've never once done that. So I give you credit for that, because it's not saying that I disagree with it or that. I think you deserve credit, though, because you've let your knowledge and like what you put out there, your content, speak for you. There haven't been like thirst traps or like OFs or anything like that. So I have to say that, because that's the thing where you easily could have just taken like the easy way out and could have blown up overnight, and you chose not to do that. And you've gone the long way, and you've really grinded, and you deserve respect for that.
Well, yeah, I think, a lot of, and I will say that in any woman who is doing that, like, that is their prerogative. But
Yeah,
I know where you're
absolutely.
coming from in this, is
I'm
that
speaking for me. I don't like, you're not saying
no,
they're not calling anybody out. I'm just, of course, speaking for me. I want to make that clear.
well, a lot of yeah, and I think that also just goes into conversations where I did get a lot of messages, from people that were like, well, if you would just, like, they're like, show a little skin, and they were not saying it as polite as I'm saying it. People were being
Yeah,
very
I know.
derogatory. So, I do understand how it could have been, you know, for those guys that were saying that, in my comments, maybe they would have been nicer to me. But I never had an interest in that, because I just was like, we were, doing our show and all that. And it's just like not in my nature. I wouldn't even know how to do half that stuff. Like, I could barely put on makeup, you know. But again, this is like, if like any of that, like, all kudos to them. I follow and respect a lot of, women who do that. But yeah, I like to think that what we've earned on our show has been, well, I guess what we've done with our show has been, earned based on just simply, like, because we didn't have video or anything.
Yeah.
We were just
Well,
talking for
that's
a long
another
time.
thing.
Now,
See,
yeah, now we have video.
if you had only listened to me, we'd be way bigger. No, I'm kidding. I actually don't think so,
No.
because I think we had to get to that point where I also, keep in mind, I didn't start doing video until 2020, November of 2020. That's when I started my YouTube channel. So I'm just as guilty. Like, I didn't do video myself. I can't just say, oh yeah, DTR never did video. But I'm glad we did it. And when we did it, we were comfortable doing it, and it works. And we like the live, because we get a lot of people that, interact with us and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah. And again, I want to make this clear. I'm not crapping on anybody that does that. I just think that people that don't do that deserve a little bit more credit, because you're essentially, you're playing the game. You're playing it on very hard difficulty. That's what I would say. Because you're actually, am I wrong? Like, you're having to really know your stuff, having to have that content, and you're not using anything to kind of like push people in that direction.
Well, I'll just say that I think that part of the reason that we've built kind of the following that we've built is because we know our stuff.
Yeah.
And, we, have, like, we talked about this earlier, but like, Jake and I really grinded out. Like, we had to, like, we really grind out Downtown Rams for several years. I mean, in a way that, looking back on it, I don't know how we had the energy to do that.
Wasn't healthy.
But it wasn't healthy, but you know what, it paid off, because our show just, it continued to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And, I made, for your 500th episode, I made that video. Listeners of our show know that I made Jake, for his 500th episode, like a surprise video where I had listeners of our show just send in videos congratulating Jake on 500. And everybody who sent in videos was very, very nice. And a lot of the videos were directed to both of us, which I thought was really, really kind, especially from like the newer listeners. But all of these videos like coming in from all over the world, and a lot of those people that were like, I've been listening since 2021 or 2022, and I'm in France, or I'm in like Georgia, or wherever they were. I was like, it just shows that, like, it was very like validating to see this audience that we had built, from people who, it's like every year I feel like we get more and more listeners and people who enjoy our content, and like the videos from people who were like, I remember Alexis's first episode, or
Yeah,
whatever. I
I
was
do
like, oh,
too.
that was so, I remember my first episode, yes. But it was very cool to hear that from like listeners who like listen, or like
Yeah.
listening to these messages from people who are like, I listen on my drives to work in the morning, on Apple Podcasts or whatever. Like that was really cool. I was like, all of those years of like literal 4 hours of sleep and working three jobs and going to grad school, and it was all worth it because we've built something that people enjoy, and it gets them through their mornings, and it makes them feel connected to the Rams, and it makes them feel a sense of community with other listeners of the show, and they get to talk to us and ask us questions, and we get to interact with them. So it's a really beautiful thing, and it makes all of those comments and all of those moments where I just was, my head was on fire and I was angry and I felt indignant and I just was like, really hurt and, lashing out. All of it made everything worth it. And, I think everything's worth it to get to the point, where we're at right now. And it hasn't been easy. And I'm not trying to like toot our own horns and be like, Jake and I have gone through so much, but we really put in a lot of work. And so, I think the fruits of our labor are nice. And
Yeah.
I'm really happy that people stuck with us and are still listening today.
No, I agree. Nothing was easy. Everything was earned. I'm not just biased in saying that. There were times where Alexis would be driving back in a blizzard, and I think there was a time where you knew you weren't going to get back in time. I think that was when we interviewed Troy Reader.
Yeah, I
And I
was in a
think we
Walgreens parking lot.
yeah, and
I
we
pulled into a
did it
Walgreens
anyway.
parking lot. Yeah.
But that
There
was
was an
really us. Like, we found a way. Even if I remember, I think I did one, I was on vacation and I was just in like my dad's car or something outside of like the place I was staying. We just found a way to do it. It wasn't always going to be pretty. Obviously, we don't have to tell you guys, if you're Downtown Rams followers, listeners, what have you. Tech tech difficulties should be our middle
ooh,
name.
especially early on. And there was an interview I did in a church parking lot. That was, and you know why I remember that? I pulled
Why is
into
that?
it was my church that I went to growing up, actually. I pulled into their parking lot, and it was Ulysses Gilbert.
Oh, Ulysses S. Grant.
Listen, guys, and I don't know who he's playing for right now. He was playing for the Steelers.
He was. I'll check it right now, actually, because I'm
Well, you
curious.
check. So I cannot believe. So his name is Ulysses Gilbert.
That is
And
so
I was
funny.
doing the outro of the show. It was a crazy day. I was in my car. I was in a church parking lot, and I closed it by saying Ulysses Grant, like the U.S. American, like the U.S. president, Ulysses Grant. He's,
He last
I
played
don't
for the
know.
Bucks.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I was mortified, and he thought it was really funny. And he
He
was
was cracking
like,
up.
he was cracking up. So, and it was fun. I mean, Ulysses Gilbert, Ulysses Grant, like when I hear the name Ulysses, I think of Ulysses Grant. And like until I had met and talked to Ulysses Gilbert, I had only known Ulysses Grant. And so I was like, thanks for coming on the show. And that was Ulysses Grant. And I was mortified. But he was like cracking up and he thought it was hilarious. But that's why I remember that. I was literally in a church parking lot when we interviewed future Ram Troy Reader. I was in a Walgreens parking lot. Like yeah, I mean, we found a way. I mean,
Yeah.
I for 2 years was recording Downtown Rams in a closet. Like I was literally in my walk-in closet with like my Shure mic. Before the Shure mic, I had the Blue Yeti, but I was then in the closet with the Shure mic, and I would have to lock my bedroom door so like none of my siblings came in and bothered me. And then I'd go into my closet and I'd shut the closet door. And yeah, I mean, it was not pretty, but
Yeah.
yeah, we made it happen.
We did. I think when we first started, I'm pretty sure I was on the broken futon, hunched over. So that's why I have back
Yeah.
issues forever. Um, I was hunched over at one
Yeah,
of
you were
those
on the
like coffee
futon.
tables with like the laptop. Never thought to buy a laptop riser or anything like that. That would have helped my back. And I think I had on. No, I had the Shure mic. So yeah, I mean, we were pretty, set up. I think
What
that
were
was
we
the thing.
using? What was the first? Was it Zencaster?
Actually,
Yeah,
no. It was the first thing we did was Skype. We used Skype
did we?
and
Then Zen.
Soundflower on, what was it, Spreaker.
Okay. You're right. Okay, so then we moved into Zen. We moved into Zencaster though, I think pretty early on because I remember
Yeah.
Zencasters. Then Zencaster started to have a ton of problems.
Yeah, it started popping every 2 seconds. Like no
That was
matter who was on.
crazy. And that was crazy being on Zencaster because like having to call in and then getting a phone call, like because like these prospects they would call me
Yes.
and then I would have
We
to
had
somehow
a
get it.
we had a Skype call. Like we had a Skype number. And they would call the
Yeah.
number.
Yeah, guys. It was a lot.
And
It
trust
was
me, before
not
you and I had a call recorder app when I interviewed George Kittle, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. And the app was terrible because you hear that was like part of like they had a sound on, so you knew that it was recording. Like it literally was
yeah.
in, it was in the interview, and oh my god, the interview is on my channel. God knows why. That's one of those.
Look how far we've come though.
I know
Look how
technology,
far we've
man.
come. I mean, now we use our software and we have these prospects come on and we just it's like like it's so easy. It's like they just log in
Oh, I know.
and
It's
it's different ball game.
It is crazy. That's actually kind of the cool thing about content is like watching the evolution. Not so much AI because I don't like AI. There's some things like AI is okay with, but like I don't know. I'm kind of over like AI generated videos that take my likeness and put it in there, and then I can't even do anything about it. Um, but no, I'll say this. I think like as technology has gotten better, it's interesting because also the kind of push of that vertical content that kind of happened within the last 3 years, maybe even further back. Because I always looked at like TikTok, and by the way, your TikTok is taken off, but I always looked at TikTok like it was like Bitcoin, and if you got in at the beginning, you're set. Like you don't have to worry about anything. Like because at the very beginning, you could post anything, and they were just pushing it everywhere. But if you got
Yeah.
in a little bit later, you know how like you get in on Bitcoin now, you can make some money, but you can't make a ton of money. Well, TikTok, you can get some views, but you can't get a ton of views. And you have to really have something that takes off, and you have. But it is not easy to grow on TikTok. So I give you a lot of credit because you're doing it in the
Yeah,
era after they kind of closed the floodgates.
I know, and I need to post on there more. I was just thinking about that today. I was like, I should start using TikTok more because it is my
Yeah.
most followed
Well,
platform. But like, I
if
just
Maya
don't.
Hawk has anything to say about it, you should probably be taking your TikTok followers and trying to get them over to Instagram.
You know what? I'm sure that there's a way to like try and be like, get the crossover. I think like I've thought about this a lot. I've thought about should I start testing some characters that I want to do for improv on TikTok?
Yeah,
Like, should I
why
be
not?
forcing? Because there's a lot of characters that I'm working on. You would have died the other night to see this character I created. But there's a lot of characters.
I saw the one where you were dancing.
Yeah, that was in my show. She was fun. So what Jake is referring to is, so I just had a show that I did and I played this character who was a terrible dancer, or she was an okay dancer, but she had been in a Judy Garland tribute cover band in Toledo, Ohio, and now was trying to get cast in a Beyonce music video. So that was fun.
That
But
was
there's
fun.
characters I'm like I should just like start making like TikToks of like testing out these characters and seeing if people like remotely respond to them. There's a character I did at IO Improv Olympic the other night. Let's see if I could. It was this like science nerd. It was this kid, and he I don't know why I made him a he, but I did, and he had hired this other kid off Craigslist to be his scientific experiment. So he's like, what do we say? Something. See, this is the problem with improv is you kind of lose it, but he was like, and you don't understand. You have to be very careful with these scientific goggles and these scientific processes, or it's never going to work out the way you do. And you have to be careful. Do not use these scientific goggles as swimming goggles. Please, under any circumstance, please do not use these as swimming goggles. Like, it doesn't sound as funny replaying it back, but it was this character that I had created on the spot. And
I've never heard you say anything in that type of way. So
did that sound like a
it sounded like Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah, that's Dexter's Laboratory. I actually think it sounds like Eugene Levy somehow in Best in Show. I don't know how, if people have seen Best in Show. But yeah, it's the lisp in a way good. That I was trying.
You do it well, and I could see like I don't know how you're doing it, but like I saw those cheekbones. Like you have to like you were really like sucking in the cheekbones.
Well, like, you have to do this. So I have to hit my tongue on the back of my two front teeth, but I have to practice it. Like that wasn't as good as it was the other night because I had kind of gotten into the rhythm of it. But I did this sketch with one of my ensemble mates at IO, and it went really, really well. And I was like, oh, I need to do more with that character because everybody kept saying how much they loved it, and now I got to try to make sure I can do that voice again and build this backstory of this character. So I think a lot of people do use TikTok. Like you see a lot of these people who make these characters and, see how the audience responds to them.
You need NPC Alexis.
NPC? Isn't that, what is NPC? That's just like
you go live and they type stuff and you have to say things like as an NPC. Oh. It's so dumb. It's a joke. Please never do it. There's
Welcome to my science TikTok channel where I will be doing experiments.
Well, did you see? You probably did because it like blew up. It was, and Kai Cenat had him on his show. The guy who did Miles Morales, Spider-Man, he did an NPC Miles Morales, and they'd be like,
I don't know,
say hi to Franklin. They'd be like, say hi to Franklin. Like he was like trying to sound like him, and like it's just like you say whatever's on the bottom of the screen, like that people chat. And
I've seen some type of TikTok lives like that. In a way.
Don't like it. I really don't, but I respect it because it's its own form of content, and it's not AI generated. So at this point, I respect anybody who's trying to make anything non-AI generated. Also, to be fair, I respect anybody who's not trying to make AI content and anybody who's not trying to make that prank content. Oh yeah, it's such a prank when you blow in somebody's ear in the mall or you punch somebody. Like,
yeah,
I can't stand that shit. That there's that one kid, Jack something, always starting shit, and he's got like a bodyguard. I'm sure you've seen it before.
I don't know. Like, I'm not like, I have TikTok and I do scroll like my For You page, but I'm so not connected to, like, I don't really know any influencers or like TikTokers or really even like YouTubers. Like, I don't like, and I feel bad about it because a lot of my friends reference these people all the time. And I'm like, I got to get more with it. I don't know who anybody is. I just am like watching like dog videos or like House of the Dragon edits, like I'm not like, I don't know who these people are, and that's good for them because there's so many people who've made really good careers on TikTok or YouTube or what be it. But I have thought about that. I'm like, maybe that would be a good way if I like tested some of these voices, because the thing with voices for me is I have to keep doing them or I'll lose them.
Yeah,
it's very frustrating because some people can do these like really good accents or voices. I have to do it. I have to like do repetition. Like the kind of like science geek voice that I did now is like a very watered down version of what I did at IO and what I've been doing in the days since, because I've already lost it. I'm like, I got to get back in the workshop and just start talking with this lisp more so I can get it down.
It's cool though, because, like I had Stephanie Nadolny on this channel, and she voices over Kid Goku in Dragon Ball and Gohan and some other characters, and she was talking about how like, she has to have like more of a raspier voice for this thing and a high pitched voice for this, and it's interesting because I've always been interested. I feel like it would be like I'm not going to say it's an easy pivot, but I think it'd be an easier pivot for me with everything that I'm doing to do voiceover. Obviously, I don't think I could be an actor. I mean, maybe, but like I wouldn't be great. I could just be like a guest in a role if anybody wanted that. But
If I ever make my films, I'll let you be the barista. I'll give you like you could be a barista or like the waiter. Like I'll get you like, one of those things to where you're acting.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
You're
And if it's a
welcome.
horror movie,
I'll let you
I
die.
I kind of have to be the killer. If it I feel like it fits.
You don't want to be a killer. See, I've thought about that if I do a horror movie. Like I think it'd be fun to play like a serial killer.
Because it's so different than who I am, obviously. Like, I feel like playing an evil. I like to consider myself like I'd be a good guy in probably a film. So I think it would throw people off if I was like the bad guy, I think, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be fine with either. But if I died in a horror film, I would definitely want to have like a fight scene, like where I actually put up a fight and just, like, what is it? Halloween Resurrection, where the guy takes one of the knives and he's like sword fighting Michael Myers. Like
It
I'd
would be
want that type
fun.
of shit.
It would
But
be fun to do something like a fight scene in a film or something.
I think,
I
yeah,
don't
I think
know.
I'd
I've
like
done.
to. Yeah, I'd like to voice over. I think though, I think I'd be down for that if the right role came about.
Yeah. Yeah, I have some friends who are into voiceover. I have a friend who well, he was in the short film I did, and he did that, but he wants to be a voiceover actor. That's his like actual main passion, but he did do a live acting
Oh,
in that
nice.
film I was in. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a lot of people who are interested in that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I feel like I've gotten to know so many voice actors and actresses since I got more into anime, because you see all these same names and they're in all different shows. It's crazy. Like
Because they can do so many different voices.
well, it is funny because you can hear like Chris Sabat, who does Piccolo and Vegeta in Dragon Ball, if you've ever heard of those two. Um, he has multiple roles where he'll be in a Solo Leveling or Attack on Titan, and you could hear it, and you're like, you close your eyes, or like maybe you look down at your phone for a second, and you look up, and you're like, that's Vegeta, and you look, oh, okay, it's just him, but it sounds like him, and they still keep that voice. Not, and the best voice actors still do as well. I think they just want that kind of raspier voice or whatever it is. So yeah, it's interesting. I never was super knowledgeable about voice acting, and now I feel like I've gotten more into it. Now I actually know like cast. Like before, all I could tell you was like Nolan North, because he does all like the video game and voiceover stuff. But now I know like Troy Baker and Alex Lee, and just there's so many. Sean Shamel, and yeah. But anyway, back to football, because I have to ask you this, because I know people are going to want me to ask you this that don't already know. The Rams. Big reason why we're even connected. Like we
Mm.
found each other through the Rams. How did you get into them? Why do you still love them despite the fact they left St. Louis? And what are you most excited about this season in 2025?
So I became a Rams fan because I'm from St. Louis. So
Mhm.
so the Rams moved to St. Louis in 1995. I was born in 1996. My parents had PSLs, so I grew up going to the Rams games. I was at all the Greatest Show on Turf games with my parents and my grandpa Eddie. And I don't remember them. I always have to be honest because people always ask about it. I'm like, I was there, but I was like too little to really like know. Like I don't remember. Like my dad talks about being there for like the Ricky Prohl, the big catch in the NFC title game.
Yeah, against the Bucks.
Yeah, and I was like there, like not that far from the end zone. I don't remember that, but I was there. So yeah, I mean, I grew up going to all the Rams games, was a big Rams fan. It's a very hard time to be a Rams fan, as you know. We're
Yeah.
not very good when we were after the Greatest Show and Turf era. It was very, very brutal. Like right as I came to like the age of like being able to kind of understand what was going on with the
Perfect
team,
timing.
they were terrible. So it was
Like,
like
oh, Alexis
not.
understands now. Let's be terrible.
Yeah, like, oh, like you know what a touchdown is now? Great. We're not going to score any. So it just was like a really, really tough time to be a Rams fan. But I grew up a Rams fan. Stayed a fan when they left St. Louis. You know, I didn't. The thought came across my mind to stop being a Rams fan, if I'm being honest. But you know what? That was my team. All the players, I knew all the players. I loved all the players. I was very invested in the team, and it didn't feel right rooting for anybody else. Like that's my team, so I stayed a Rams fan. So yeah, I guess the St. Louis connection is how I became a fan, and I stayed a fan. And what I'm most excited about is I hope and I think and I hope that they are gonna run it back in 2025, 2026. I think that they are a few offensive pieces away from being an absolute contender. So I hope and think that they're going to keep Matthew Stafford. I think they're going to get a few more offensive weapons, and I think they'll be good to go. So that's what I'm most excited about, is just seeing this team that was just so close, just missing a few pieces. I think that they are going to go for it all.
I agree with you. I really do think they're a few offensive pieces away. Obviously, if they don't have Stafford, where you're talking a completely different tune, but
Yeah.
I think he'll be back. I'm feeling confident. Let's get into the last segment of this show. We got the hobbies segment because you and I have similarities. We have differences. We have recommendations. You recommended Game of Thrones and, Parks and Rec and all the Aubrey Plaza films. And I don't remember what I recommended to you, but I'm sure you took some stuff away. So, you're a big music fan.
Yep.
What are some of your favorite artists and why?
Oh man. I mean, one of my favorite artists is Ethel Kane, who you can't really see it in the frame, but I'm wearing an Ethel Kane hoodie right now. And she's
Nice.
great. I really love her. She has like one of my favorite albums of all time is Preacher's Daughter by her, which is a concept album, which is really great. I'm a big Sleep Token fan. I know that you like Sleep Token as well. Did I
Yes.
introduce you to Sleep Token?
I,
Or
I
I don't,
think you did.
I think
You
I
did.
did. Well, Sleep Token is another, like, I love that band, one of my favorite bands. They also, like, work with, like, a lot of concept I mean, really, their first three albums is a story that's a concept. So they're really, really cool. I love Sleep Token. I love Eminence, who's like another metal band. Their album The Black was one of my favorite albums of last year. Really like them. I kind of listen to everything though. So like I love Sleep Token, I love Eminence, but then I'm also like a really big fan of The Weeknd. And like he just
Mm.
had an album come out, which was his last album is The Weeknd. I don't know if you knew that, but he's closing the chapter
What's he calling
of The
himself
Weeknd.
now?
I don't know. I don't know that he knows. But it was really crazy. It was a really bittersweet thing because I love The Weeknd so much. But love him. Pale Waves is a band that I really enjoy that I just got into. Their album Smitten, I love last year. I mean, I like Taylor Swift, but like that's not original. I'm trying to think of like my favorite albums from last year to give people a reference because like that's really what I'm listening to right now.
Did I have anything to do with like your sudden, like, it seems like you got way more into like rock and metalcore since I would say
So
not long
May
after I knew you.
so in 20 the end of 2020 I listened to there was a band that an ex of mine liked, so I checked them out. And I didn't particularly
Mm.
like them, but I kind of like the sound and I started looking for bands like that and then I kind of started to get into that. The first like metalcore band that I came across who's still one of my favorite bands is Thousand Below.
Mm.
And I came across their album Gone in Your Wake, which is like a very soft, like metalcore, it's kind of got punk vibes. And I really liked that. And then I got into Dayseeker, who I really
Dayseeker's
like
really good.
still. So that kind of got me into like, then I kind of started to get into more heavier stuff. But yeah, I'd have to like if I pull up my phone right now. So I guess what I'm listening to the most right now, like if I pull up, I don't know if you knew that Replay 2025 is already out.
I
Um,
did.
so if, so what I'm listening to right now is mostly Ethel Cain and Sleep Token, like dominates that, but there's like a little bit of Architects in there. There's The
Okay.
Weeknd, Pale Waves, Lambrini Girls, who dropped in like a punk album that was really good this year. Yeah, it's like it's literally just as, Grayscale just dropped an album that I liked. That's a rock album. Walla dropped an album last year that I loved. So yeah, I don't know. There's like a good mix. It's mostly rock, I'd say, a little bit of pop in there.
I love it because you were not as into rock when we first met each other. You
No,
were
I didn't
more, yeah, you were
into
more hip
pop.
hop. I would say
Pop.
pop. Um, so yeah, I noticed that, which was cool. And yeah, I mean, I sent you a bunch of stuff, and you sent me a bunch of stuff, and you got me into
Hmm.
Dayseeker and
Hmm.
um,
The
that other
Weeknd.
band. Well, yeah, you did get. I always liked that one song. I forget what it's
Kissland.
called. No, well, no. Before that, it was the something.
I don't know. I'd have to go
I
back
don't.
and look. I mean, there's The Morning.
I,
I don't think it was
I don't.
that.
I
The
don't. Maybe it's not
Professional.
the something. I don't know. Maybe it was like
Well,
his
the
biggest
one
hit.
that, oh, newer or older?
I think it's older.
I don't know. I just remember that Kissland album I got you into, and we listened to that in
Yes, I'm
in New
looking at my
York.
25 right now. I
Um,
got Papa Roach. They have one new their single,
mhm.
Even If It Kills Me. Really like that one. Wind Waker, who I had, the lead singer Liam on. Um, Absolutely love Wind Waker. Architects, Zed, because he did the the Dragon Ball Daima theme song. I've been listening to a lot of the Persona soundtrack. I don't know if you ever heard of Persona 5. It's a video game. Their soundtrack is like, I don't know, it's got like this jazzy kind of undertone that I love. Um, Obviously Starset, Memphis Mayfire, they have a new record coming out. Dream Theater has a new record. Found this song, Mr. Invisible by Thank You Scientist. My dad showed me. Absolutely love it. And then of course King's X. I just had Doug Pinnick on. I've been listening to them like nonstop. They're so good. King's X, and then of course his solo stuff, Doug Pinnick, and then Set It
I
Off.
really, I really like. Who'd you send me? Stray from the Path.
Yeah, my
I
roommate got me
checked.
into them.
I really like them and their music. I know that you do that. I would. But I like
Yeah,
them, and
no,
then
I heard it
they
immediately. I was like,
I like Straight from the Path, and then through them I discovered Stick to Your Guns, which is like a similar band, so you should check them out
yeah,
too. I liked them too. Um, I like both of those bands. They kind of reminded me of Anti-Flag, who I used to listen to a lot.
they were in
Yeah,
like Madden. That's when I first heard Anti Flag.
I just listen to I listen to pretty much everything but country music. Like, I definitely
Yeah,
like I go the phrases. Like I'm obvious like I'm an Eminem fan. I mean, who isn't? Like I listened to I'm still bumping his The Death of Slim Shady album. I was just listening to it the other day. So yeah, I just kind of listen to a ton of different stuff. Like I go from that to Ethel Cain to Sleep Token to Architects. Like, you know what I mean? I'm all over the place.
I get it. I feel like I've become more centralized, but there wasn't that long ago where I would listen to Five Finger Death Punch, then listen to the Beatles, and then listen to Damian Marley, like all in the span of like an hour. And you're like, that's wow, that's really covering all the bases there. But yeah, it's funny because like for instance, like rap. I used to be way more into that. It was never a primary genre of mine, but like Eminem, Joyner Lucas, Kendrick Lamar. And now I really only listen to Kendrick. And I don't listen to rap much, but I'm not going to lie, since the Super Bowl, because I think the best thing about the Super Bowl is that halftime show. That is how out of the Super Bowl I was. I did not really care.
Hey, a lot of people were watching just for the halftime show. I mean,
I don't
America.
even like the halftime shows. Like, no one knows how to mix them correctly, but I don't know. I thought Kendrick did a nice job. And you know why I like Kendrick's performance? Because a lot of people were hating on it. I liked it because it was bare bones. Like, yes, it had theatrics and it had different, props and stuff like that. But he brought on SZA, and that was it. I can't stand the spectacle of having 8 different guests. I don't care. I don't care about you. I don't care about you. And I definitely don't care about you. Like, it's these random people. Like, I cannot stand when they do that. If I'm getting the halftime show featuring Bruno Mars, I want Bruno Mars, and if he wants to bring one guest, okay. If I'm getting Kendrick, he wants to bring a guest, okay. But if I'm getting like somebody and they're like, yeah, we're going to bring this, and this, and you're like, then they end up playing like these abbreviated songs, which are already abbreviated, but they're abbreviated on top of that. And, at this point, obviously this is a halftime show, but any performances regarding the games, I guess I'm just scarred mentally because the Yankees, when they brought out Fat Joe, I just thought I was going to have a stroke. Like, I was like, I cannot believe they did that because that was so bad. And then after that, they just, but the problem is a lot of those performances, whether people want to admit it or not, are never going to be good because they don't mix it well on TV. And we've talked about this forever. I remember we tuned in. You told me to watch it. Fall Out Boy was playing the All-Star game because I like Fall Out Boy. And they're playing the NBA All-Star game. And the mix was so bad. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have told you to put this on. It was like not their fault, but it's like coming through the TV. It was just like the stage audio. It just doesn't work. I don't know. They need to get like, what is it? Palladia? Is that the live concert channel? They need to get like whoever's behind that and just have them mix it because they do it well. But yeah, NBA All-Star Game, NFL, like the Super Bowl, all that. Yeah. But so yeah, you got really into music. I was actually really surprised you got into like harsh vocals. I never saw you being open to that ever. Because I showed you Ice Nine Kills once, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna pass." Because
I think it just depends. Like, it depends. I need some melody mixed in. You know what I mean? Like,
I
scream
agree.
for a little, but then give me melody. I think that's where my hang up is. Like, a lot of like the pure metal bands are like too much for me. I've got to have some.
I agree.
Metalcore.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think when you add the marriage of melodic singing to kind of that harsh vocal screaming, and by harsh, I mean maybe it's even like an attacking type of screaming. I feel like those two in combination, you can make something incredible. And that's why I love like Wind Waker, and I love Ice Nine Kills, and I love a lot of these metalcore bands that are just, I feel like, doing it the right way. I feel like the first band that I found, I'm not saying I'm giving them credit for, but the first band I found that did that was Ice Nine Kills. And then I also started to hear like A Day to Remember, where they went from more just straight up heavy to then there was more like singing. And that's when I really got into A Day to Remember. And yeah, it's a really interesting genre. And it's a genre that there are a lot of people out there that do like it, and they just don't want a lot of people to know about it because there is something about this screamo in society that is just frowned upon. I'll never understand why, but it's one of those things. It's like, I don't know, it's like worshiping the devil or whatever. Like, people just, they shy away from it, Alexis. They do.
Tasteless.
I know. That's why, shout out to the charismatic voice. She's an opera singer, YouTube channel. She paired with, I totally forgot the guy's name, but he's from Lorna Shore, and they scream. They don't really even
Yeah.
sing. But paired with him, and they're doing this initiative to get harsh vocals taught at music schools. And they're putting in all this money to get research done so these people can have these harsh vocals and continue down that path, but not worry about blowing out their voice. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
So,
that is cool.
But moving on from music, you mentioned earlier, I would say you're a cinemaphile, right?
I am a cinephile. I would say so.
I would say so. So, I already know one of them. You got me into it as well. What the hell is it called? I don't know
Black
why
Bear?
I almost said no. Well, yes, I watched that, but the one with
Goodfellas?
yes, good Lord. Yes, that was awesome. That is one of the best movies I've ever seen. But what are some of your favorite films and TV shows?
Ooh, so I don't like favorite films is so tough because I feel like it's like living and breathing, ever evolving, ever changing. There's so many films I love, but like off the top of my head, films I've really loved lately. So Black Bear, which I mentioned, is one of my all-time favorite films. That's Aubrey Plaza and Christopher Abbott. It's a great movie, which I know that you've seen. Um, I really love the film Dinner in America, something I saw recently that I really love. There's just like two like weirdos who like fall in love, and I thought it was beautiful and touching. Um, Thoroughbreds is another really good movie that comes to mind, which I've been trying to get you to watch. Anya Taylor-Joy and Olivia Cook, great
Oh, that's
movie.
right.
Anton
Yeah.
Yelchin as well. Um, Another movie I love, Bottoms. I've also tried to get you to watch. It's Rachel Sennett and Ayo Edebiri, who I am obsessed with both of them. So funny. God, what films do I like love? I Want You Back on Amazon Prime, which is Jenny Slate and Charlie Day.
Mm.
Christopher Guest movies are like really, really good movies that I always love. As well, like I mentioned Best in Show earlier, like earlier this year to start the year, I watched Waiting for Guffman. And For Your Consideration, another good Christopher Guest film. This is Spinal Tap. Another mockumentary film that I actually think you should watch as well is I don't know if you've heard of What We Do in the Shadows, but I saw that for the first time this year.
You mentioned that
And
to me.
it was
Yeah,
really funny. It's like a mockumentary film about vampires, but
that's
it's
funny.
really, really funny.
Is
But
Depp in that?
man,
Is that?
no, it's
I don't know why I thought Johnny Depp was in
Jermaine
that.
Clement and the guy who directed some of the Thor movies. Let me pull this up.
Oh wow. Oh yes, I know who you're talking about.
Wait, uh, I'm gonna pronounce his name wrong probably. His last name is
Yeah, Taika
Wati
Waititi.
yeah, Taika Waititi. Yeah, he's in it, and Jermaine Clement. Uh, Really, really funny movie. Definitely
I've only seen
recommend.
one movie all year. It was when Harry met Sally. That's the only movie I've seen this year.
It's
I've
a
pretty much
great
only
movie.
watched anime.
That's a classic movie though.
I finished Suits too. So it's been Suits, anime, Invincible, Yellow Jackets just came out, so I'll be watching that. But yeah, I've only watched one movie, so I got a lot.
Yeah, I don't have like favorite movie. Like A Star is Born with Judy Garland comes to mind as like a movie, another really good movie. Um, it's like I think I like Bridesmaids. That's like one of my all-time favorite movies. It's hilarious. Um, any movie with Kristen Wiig is like really, really good. Um,
We've
I
watched quite
don't
a bit of
know.
movies together as far as like starting at the same time, texting about
Yeah,
it
we
and
have.
stuff.
Hmm.
The last one we watched, I don't remember. It's been a while.
I told you that if you would watch Bottoms with me, that I would watch 4 episodes of
That
Dragon
is,
Ball Z.
I do remember
So
that.
that
I still
offer
have
is
to
still on
do
the
that.
table. But so like another movie I love, like I'm trying to go through my letterbox to open like Theater Camp, great mockumentary film that I love. Bodies, 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 very good. One of my favorite movies in the past few years. Um, it's like, I mean, Baby Mama's a classic. I'm not gonna lie. I mentioned the movie earlier. There's so many. I don't like the favorite movies question because I panic because
No, I get it.
people have made that question as like, oh, you got to give the most pretentious answer and answer
I
some
know.
obscure film that you've seen. I like a lot of movies. I watch a lot of movies.
I get
I
it.
watched 150 movies,
I,
new
I
movies that I'd never
mean,
seen last year.
yeah, like when people ask me my favorite movie, I was just asked this on a date, and I like couldn't really answer without saying, "Yeah, I like Spider-Man: No Way Home. I like The American Psycho. I like Beverly Hills Cop." And those were the first three that came to mind. And I think I also mentioned Goodfellas. I just am kind of yeah. Like I agree with you. It's kind of that breathing, that ever breathing thing. I love Elf. I've seen. I think I've seen Elf more than any movie ever. If I'm being honest with you. I mean, I probably know every single line of dialogue in that movie. And it's weird because it doesn't come to me as like that's one of my all-time favorites. But if you're looking at it from a terms of, watchability and rewatching, I've probably seen Elf with my family around Christmas time more times than I can count. And then there's like the Nolan films, like I thought Memento, it wasn't like my favorite, but it was so
Did you see Oppenheimer?
amazing. Oh, Oppenheimer is one of the greatest movies ever. So
Okay,
yeah, I would probably. Yeah,
so you did okay. I just wasn't sure if you'd seen it, but that was probably different.
yeah, yeah. Memento was his first. Did you check that out?
I don't remember. I don't think I've seen Memento.
Oh my god, it's incredible. It's
Have you seen Inception yet?
yes, really liked Inception.
Yeah, Inception. I need to
That
rewatch
ending
that.
was wild. I like.
I need to rewatch it because I saw it back when it first came out
I
and was
tried
so
five straight times, passed out.
it was so trippy and I liked it, but it was still like I was like I need to rewatch this again and like see if I really got it. So I've been meaning to do that.
It's got. Oh, you also got me into. Speaking of Leo DiCaprio, you had me watching Shutter Island,
Yeah.
and the ending of that was just like I
Mm-hmm.
love psych horror and psych
Yeah.
thriller like so
Sh-
much.
Shutter Island's one of those movies where it's like I like to think I always catch on. You know, like I watch movies and I more times than not I feel like I predict the twist. Not to brag, but like almost in a way where, I feel like I could kind of catch on. Like I know. I know the secret. But Shutter Island, I did not.
It's hard though cuz I think the thing that's so hard about trying to guess and trying to know is that you
Kind
also
of
have
take.
to think in terms, are they going to make it so obvious that you would never guess it? Or are they going to go like the formulaic route, the red herring? Are they going to actually make the red herring the thing? Like there's so many different things and so many different pathways that you can go when it comes to a psychological thriller. And I found that, the one with Matt Damon, oh my God, Mr. something. It was very interesting. It was Matt Damon and Jude Law. And there was another one, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh,
I cannot remember. Mr. something. It was like, it just got progressively more intense. And you're like, oh, wow. And yeah, I went on like a binge last year when I first moved into the apartment. My roommate and I were trying to ignore stocks and crypto. Just didn't want to look at it. We're like, we're not going to trade, whatever. We went through like 3 straight weeks of almost every day. It felt like we were watching another movie. And it was like almost always like psychological thriller, like Jacob's Ladder, which is crazy. That movie is crazy. There's a lot of movies that are just absolutely crazy. The Prestige, that's another one. Yeah, I just that genre is so like Fight Club. It's so fascinating to me, and that's why like I get it, like why you can't really say like your favorite because there's I just mentioned a bunch of those. Are any of them my favorite? Probably not, but I enjoyed the
Yeah.
hell out of them, and they still are in my head to this day. So, all
Yeah,
right,
I would
how about
never.
this? Name an obscure movie that nobody likes that you think is like how you defend Nickelback. Like they're way better than people realize.
I do defend
Defend
Nickelback.
defend a
Um,
movie that no one likes that you believe is misunderstood.
I don't know that there's any movies that nobody likes that I think is misunderstood. I can name like movies that I think are like hidden gems.
Yeah, I mean
That
that would
other
work too.
people, let me see. I have my letterboxed open. That's probably the way to do it.
Because
Um,
the movie that I'm thinking of got a 15 score on Rotten Tomatoes, and I swear to God, it was fun to watch, and I would watch it again. Jumper.
so okay, I can think of a controversial. This movie was not obscure, and this movie was in the headlines for every reason except the movie itself. But there was a movie that came out recently called It Ends With Us with
Oh,
Blake
I still need to
Lively
see
and
that.
Justin Baldoni. And and I there's a lot of obviously there's a lot of discourse about things other than the movie that I won't talk about, but I will say the movie itself, a lot of people were shitting on the movie, and I actually really enjoyed it. I watched the movie and I was like, I thought this was a fine film. I watched it's on Netflix now. I watched it one night and I was engaged. I thought it was good. I thought that all the actors did a really good job and it was a good movie. So, I
Yeah,
don't know. So to kind of answer the question, like I see a lot of hate for that movie and I'm not quite sure like just about the movie itself and I'm not quite sure why because I liked it. So, I'll say that.
it doesn't quite generate. Um, I guess you don't get the clout, or you don't get the love on Twitter, for instance, or social media. If you're loving a movie, it's normally
Hmm.
like if you hate it, that's when people tend to, oh yeah, had this, and this wrong with it. So I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I liked, with her, I liked A Simple Favor, and I know they're gonna make a second one. I don't know why. I thought that was good as a standalone with Anna Kendrick, but they're making a second one. It should be out either late this year or next year. But yeah, I think that's what I would say about that. I think that's just like people. You mentioned, oh, you want to pick something that's so um what did you say, pretentious or whatever. That, what was the word you used, like
Well, I
the
think
movie?
a lot of people try to give some pretentious answer of like what's a really obscure, just like really good film that I could say is my favorite as opposed to saying like the Avengers movie. Like, you know what I mean? Without
Yeah,
getting
no,
into
I
that
get that.
discourse. But I think it's okay to just say that, like, you like Goodfellas or, you like Bridesmaids. Like, I don't, like, those are fantastic films. I don't see why some cinephiles feel the need to. It's like A Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I love that movie. I think that's a fantastic, fantastic film.
I like
But a
Uncut
lot of
Gems.
people, Uncut Gems, good film. There's a lot of these movies that are really good Oscar-winning films that I also really love, but I don't feel the need to pretend like they're my favorite movie I've ever seen. You know,
Yes, I
just let
totally
people like
understand.
whatever movies they like.
I get it. So what's one fictional character from a show or movie you think best describes you?
I don't know that I've ever seen a fictional character and been like, that's so me. I think I see characters that have aspects of my personality. It's funny because in a weird way, so we talk about Parks and Recreation. I think if you could somehow take April Ludgate and Leslie Knope and make them one person. Somehow that's me. I know that that sounds really psychotic because they're so polar opposites, but I think if you could somehow make April Ludgate like a very intellectual, overachieving, obsessive compulsive person, but still have kind of the personality of April Ludgate. Maybe. I don't know. I think I don't know. I've never really seen a fictional character where I'm like, she's totally me. I know people have those characters, but it'd probably be a better question to ask somebody who knows me than ask me myself because I won't know.
I mean, I would probably say April Ludgate.
Very
I would
similar.
also say you're like a mix of April Ludgate and then that one character from what was her name? Portia from White Lotus. I'd say if you combine those
Oh
two,
no,
that is you.
not Portia. God love her. See, I don't see the Portia at all. I think
You
the
have an
only thing,
adventurous side to you, but you like to
yeah,
kind of cover it up. So that's
maybe
where
that.
the April Ludgate like fusion.
Yeah,
Like this is like straight like anime here fusing people, but no, that kind of fusion, I get it.
she makes some questionable choices, which sure I can relate to that. I can maybe, yeah, maybe
Yeah,
a
she's
very watered
adventurous. She
down.
gets herself
Yeah,
into a position. Yeah, it's
there was also a lot about Harper, again, another Aubrey character, but like there was a lot of like things that Harper did where I was painfully relatable. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I'll take it, April and Portia. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. It's like there's this show Girls, HBO,
Hmm.
and there's like all of those women on that show are so different, but I'm like, there's parts of every single one of those characters that I feel like I heavily relate to. So I don't know.
Yeah,
April Ludgate, Leslie Knope combo, that would be my answer. I don't know though.
it's weird. If I were to do for me, I mean, I'd probably say a combination of like Noah from the Scream TV series. Cause I don't know. Like he's like quick-witted, loves horror. And then I also feel like I'm kind of like a mix of that. And then I also have some like Mike Ross in me. I wish I was more like Harvey Specter from Suits. We all aim to be that confident and that manly, but I would say Mike Ross to an extent if you even know who those people are. Um I don't know, what would you say? Like like to your point,
Um,
you know me, like what would you It's
I
interesting.
don't know. I'd have to think about it. I would say definitely a little bit of Ron Swanson.
Okay, I like that.
Um, it's funny because I actually think that you're like a mix of Ron Swanson and Ben
That makes a lot of sense. I feel yes, Ben, I'm very much like Ben. I feel like
from
I'm
Parks
just
and Rec.
like Adam Scott in almost every role he plays.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, that'd be my
It's like he
answer. I'd be
speaks to
like
me. I don't
you're
know.
Ben, yeah, Ben and Ron from Parks and Rec would be my answer. A mixture.
I feel like that's good. Yeah, I would definitely take that. Anytime you're compared to Ron Swanson, I mean that's like the highest of high standards in my
Right.
opinion. He's one of
Yeah.
the greatest fictional characters of all time.
Yeah.
We got to get you to watch Suits, by the way. That's what we got to do.
Maybe I got a lot on my list.
I
I've
mean,
got a lot.
if I could choose, like you finishing all of Suits or finishing all of say Dragon Ball Z, I think I would take Dragon Ball Z. But Suits is epic,
I said I'll watch 4 episodes after you watch Bottoms.
and then you'll get hooked and you'll keep watching. Hopefully, we'll see.
Never know.
Hey, there was that point where, like, right before the Super Bowl, I was hanging out with you, vacation, and we watched like New Girl every day.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
and
We did watch that.
did you even? I don't know if you
I
revisited
never
that.
finished it. I need to go back. I kind of fell out of it.
Yeah,
I kind of reached a wall, but
I remember
I did enjoy it for
Nick.
a
Nick
while.
bothered you. I remember that.
Nick really did bother me. Unfortunately, I know people don't like to hear that answer.
I know. I mean, I get it, but I love Jake Johnson, so it's okay.
Me too.
We
Yeah.
can live with that. Um, okay, so talked about movies, TV shows. You read a lot of books. I don't really know anything about books, to be honest with you. But what are some of your favorites for people that do read?
Ooh, so like all time favorites.
Yeah,
I mean, the Percy Jackson book series was massive for me as a child. I mean, Annabeth Chase is a character in those books who I just like really, really loved and adored. She's not the main character. Obviously, Percy Jackson's the main character, but Annabeth was like one of the main characters. And yeah, I'd say the Percy Jackson book series. I know they're technically for like middle school age, high school age people, but
no
they hold
judgment.
up. They hold up. I read them. I read them again recent. Like I reread the series like a few years ago again, and they're really good. So I'd say the Percy Jackson books. I read a lot of nonfiction. Like Atomic Habits by James Clear is one of my all-time favorite books if you're into like self-improvement and building habits. It's a really good book. I just finished reading How Democracies Die, and that is like I think one of the most important books I've probably read in my life. Definitely my adult life. Very, very knowledgeable, especially if you're a history fan. If you like reading about history, it's got some good stuff in there. Ooh, Final Girls is a like a psychological thriller
Interesting.
that yeah, maybe you'd like that. I read that 2 months ago now. That's a really good book. That was like one of those books that I kept reading on like weeknights and I had to work the next morning and it'd be like midnight. I'm like, oh my God, I can finish another chapter. So like very hooked. I was like, I need to know like how these murders happened. Very dark book to read before bed, but it's very good. Yeah, a lot. The Midnight Library. This book I really liked, which I think is technically a young adult book, but We Were Liars, which is another psychological thriller. Like with, it's like one of those books where at the end you're like, there's a big, it's like Shutter Island in a way, and you're like, oh my God, wait, what? This whole time, this whole thing I've been reading. So that's a really good book. I also like to read a lot of like autobiographies. So for people who are like last 2 years ago, whenever it came out, it might have been a little over 2 years ago, Matthew Perry wrote a really good book, Rest in Peace, which was an autobiography that he wrote about a year before he died. And it was kind of about just like his life, but particularly his battle with like drug addiction, and kind of being on Friends and whatever. I thought that was a really, really good book. I've read all of Chelsea Handler's books. I read Amy Poehler's autobiography, Lucille Ball's, obviously. I like to read a lot of autobiographies, but
That's
I don't know.
cool.
I just kind of read, there's a good mix of things. I feel like I ebb and flow between fiction and nonfiction. Right now, I'm in a very hard nonfiction space, where I'm reading just like a lot of like nonfiction and like political philosophy and just like anything like that. But then I will do that for several months and then get back into the fiction space where I'm like, let me read psychological thrillers or romance novels. So I kind of like alternate.
So it's funny because I don't know why you just jogged my memory. There was one book that I remember reading that I actually enjoyed, and I think it was in elementary school, maybe middle school. It's called Dollhouse Murders. Did you ever read that?
No, but
It
I
was
could see
by
why you might like it.
it was like a mystery horror, but it was like kids horror, like kind of like Goosebumps, how they told you, yeah, it's totally for kids, but it kind of toes the line of maybe there's some things like your 3-year-old shouldn't be interested in that, but the author was Betty Renwright, if I have that correctly. I think that was a book that like I think everybody in my school had to read that at a certain, age group. So I don't know. I think it was part of the curriculum, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I just picked it, but I remember it being interesting and I don't remember anything since. I just remember that I liked it. Um, Yeah, I tried to get into books. It just never happened. One thing I will say, I'll give you a recommendation for a video game because you're a big history buff. You got to check out Civilization. Like,
I played Civilization for a long time.
oh,
I
okay.
played on PC.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yes,
I
you got to
definitely went
play
through
on
a
PC.
phase. Yeah, I definitely went
They
through a phase where I played that.
they just dropped the 7th installment with I would think it was last week. I would definitely check it out. Cuz I know you're into like Tropico and like those kind of
Yeah, I
strategy
was
games.
just thinking that. I was like, because you brought up Civilization, that made me think of Tropico, and I was like, I gotta play Tropico. I still have it on my computer. I wonder if they've made a new Tropico because I really liked those.
I think you could play Civ on that Mac. I'm going to look it up right
That
now.
I
See if
did.
you
That's where I played it.
No,
I
I mean
played.
even the new ones, I'm pretty sure you
Oh,
can.
well, I played Civ on
Um
Mac. I played Tropico on Mac. I played Sim City on Mac.
yep.
Wait, did I play
It's
Sim City
available
on
on
Mac?
Mac. Yep.
All right, maybe I'll check it out.
Civilization 7.
I do like I like world building games are my favorite. You know, like The Sims. Like I like
No,
games
yeah, no, I get that. I think it's just more so like, like you
in
mentioned
history. Yeah.
democracy and history. It's like you're building your own like
Hmm.
rule essentially, your government, your religious ideology. It's so fascinating. And then you could build like wonders. So like I have like an obsession of building all the wonders. So I'll steal like you can build the pyramids and put them in the
Yeah.
United States or whatever you want to do. I end up doing that.
Hmm.
I'll take your Colosseum. That's now in the United States. I'll take the pyramids. I will take the Hanging Gardens, the Taj Mahal, you name it. That's always how I've played it. But I've always
Hmm.
played it in way of like, scientific advancement and technological advancement. I never really cared for going to war in those games. I'm just like, leave me alone. I just want to build an empire, be scientifically established, and grow my civilization. But yeah, there are people, if you play that online, there are warmongers. There are people that try to kill you at the beginning of the game. But no, I recommend just playing it, getting the game and just playing it with the CPU. It's a fun, chill game. If you have other people that want to play it with you, though, it can be way more than chill. I once had a 24-hour game, straight 24 hours with my two friends. And
Wow.
my friend nuked us both at the end. so yeah, recommend that one. Now, this question, we got two more here. What is one thing people don't know about Alexis Kraft?
One thing they don't know about me. Ooh, something they don't know that I want to share. Um, I mean, I play video games quite a bit. I play The Sims a lot. I don't know if that's an interesting answer. I could give much deeper answers, but I mean, I guess I would say, you know, I play The Sims a lot. I play Madden a little bit. I guess maybe that I play video games. Um, I'd say I don't know. I have obsessive compulsive disorder. um, I'm pretty sure people know that though. If they just like know me, I'm pretty sure I've shared that on Twitter. But yes, I have debilitating obsessive compulsive disorder. Um, I don't know. People know that I read. Um,
They know that
it's
you like
hard.
pineapple and olives on your pizza.
I do like pineapple and olives on my pizza. What's like a fun? I don't know. I'm third cousins with George Washington.
Are you
Um,
really?
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people are though. I don't know
Yeah,
how.
I don't know.
I mean, but yes, we have we share a great grandfather, but obviously he is closer to that person than I am.
Mm.
I don't know. It's like when people ask you what your fun facts are, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, I would say probably, I'd say, I don't know, those
The video
things.
games thing works because then I have a follow-up question for you. Would you
Yeah.
ever be, I know we've talked about this, and you never wanted to be considered the gamer girl, but would you ever consider doing like when you see like AOC playing Madden or something, would you ever consider yourself like,
Did she play
you
Madden?
know, she played Madden, I think with
Tim Walls?
Tim Walls, yeah.
Yeah. Did she win? Or did he win?
I think she won.
Okay.
But yeah,
I don't know. That's actually, I didn't know that. I remember now that kind of that happened, but I've forgotten about that. I never watched it. I should have.
I used them as an example because they have a platform for a completely different reason, but then they take that platform and then they bring it over to the gaming space.
I would definitely consider it. I don't think people would want to watch me play Sims. And I also don't really want people to watch me play Sims. Like that's like my private time. Like I'm building, like I'm playing my characters and they're having their nice Wednesday night. And like I don't need people. But like I would watch or I would stream maybe Madden. It would probably be a good way to get me better at the game because I'm not that good. I play Madden, but like I'm more like I'm into the franchise mode. I'm always playing the franchise modes. Like when I play 2K or Madden or like I had MLB The Show last year that I played. I'm more interested in like the it sounds shitty, but like I'm more interested in like the building of the team than I am actually playing the games. Like I'm not.
It's always how I was.
Yeah, like I'm not. So I think it would be kind of boring to stream that. I think I'd have to start playing more. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I don't know that, as you know, and like you've said, I've never really been super interested in the gaming space, but if there was something that I came across that intrigued me, maybe.
I've had some success, some failure. A failure in my position, in my opinion, I would say. Trying to break into the gaming space. I think for me, I think it's really just a debate whether or not, because like for you, I would probably say if you did that, you should direct people over to either Twitch or Kick. But yeah, maybe it depends on how you view your YouTube channel. Because if you want to have like a miscellaneous YouTube channel, you could do something like that. But yeah, for me, actually, right now, I'm kind of wrestling with that, not knowing what to do. Where I have the YouTube channel, I have the Twitch channel, which has way less following than the other, and then Kick has the most following, and they pay the best, by the way, 95-5 split. That's not bad, but yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you've seen people in the past that they get known as, oh, that's the Call of Duty streamer, or that's the World of Warcraft or whatever. And then they build upon that. Like a good example of this, you've probably heard of League of Legends before. I don't know if you've ever played it, but League of Legends,
No.
You've never heard of it?
No, I've never played it. I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, it's pretty big. I would have. So yeah, this guy, Video Game Donkey is his name. He got his start on YouTube playing just League of Legends, just making videos, like super, super old. Like we're talking 10 years ago on YouTube. And then he got big enough to the point where he just stopped playing League of Legends. And now he has that kind of fan base. And now he just makes like kind of these joke, game review videos. And I feel like that's kind of the thing is that, like, I don't know if I think for you as well, like, I could already tell you, I don't want to be that dude that's doing the one game that I'm streaming. Yeah. And I'm sure you don't want to be the one person that's streaming that one game. Like, I think you'd rather have your personality be the reason why people are tuning in instead of the game. But that's just me. I think you do well because I think just the experience we have interacting with an audience and doing our draft streams, for the love of God, nobody can match that because we go live. How many hours is that? We got 7 on day 3.
8 or 9. Oh, you're talking about the draft. On day 3.
Yeah.
Day 3, close to 7. Yeah.
And then you have 3 the night before, and then 3 the night before that. Maybe it's 4. Then it's 7 to 11. Yeah, so it's 3, 4, and then 7. So if you do the math, that's 14. 14, 15 hours. It's a lot.
Yeah. It
So
is.
yeah. All right. Last question. How do you, Alexis Kraft, how do you want to be remembered as a person, as a comedian, and as a sports content creator when it's all said and done?
I think just, as a person, I just would like to be remembered as somebody who was genuine and who somebody who's genuine and somebody who always brought the best out in other people and uplifted other people, was there for other people, and who made people laugh and who was interesting. But I think at the end of the day, just somebody who you felt connected to or safe with or made your life better in some way. As a comedian, I just would like to be remembered as somebody who, I mean, like I said earlier, made people laugh, but also just, I think I would like to be somebody that lets people see a window into like an escape or helps people escape and feel like they can forget everything in their life for the amount of time that they're watching me and just really connect to a character I play, and somebody who plays characters who people relate to and love and feel good about and feel invested in. And then in the sports world, I just want to be remembered as a very passionate sports fan through the good and the bad, who was loyal to my teams and who people enjoyed, talking shop, talking ball with.
I like that. That's a great answer. Yeah, I think, I mean, when it's all said and done, I think people will, remember you in that light. And I think, you're warm, kind-hearted. You might be a little reserved. You might you not share everything, but I think you've also over the course of time have really opened yourself up, and let people get to know you a little bit more. And obviously, this interview shows that. So that's going to do it. Do you have anything new coming up? Anything that you want to promote? Anything along those lines?
Not at the moment. Just that hopefully, maybe in the next coming months, I'll have several shows at the Second City, but I don't know that yet. But no, I think just we're gearing up for the NFL draft, and I'm doing a lot of improv at the Second City in IO, and I'm working on some I'm working on some projects with some other actors.
I love it.
That's all I can say.
Hey,
Get out of
I get
myself.
it.
But so we'll see. Hopefully, I'll have more announcements in the coming months.
Awesome. And as always, you guys can check out everything in the description below. All of our social medias will be posted below. Appreciate you, Alexis, for coming on and spend some time. This is probably the longest interview of this channel's history. I don't know yet. It's up there. We've had some long ones. This is a long one, but appreciate you guys if you made it this far. Man, the dedication. So be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Check out Alexis' YouTube, all of her social media below. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Later, folks.